All right, shalom, everybody. Welcome. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Amen. Welcome. Oof. Trying to make sure that my water intake continues to be high, as it has been extremely hot where I have been. Hopefully, you guys have been making sure you've stayed hydrated as well. And we're thankful and grateful for an opportunity to be with everybody one more again on all the different platforms. We celebrate you. We are honored to have you with us. We're thankful and grateful for the opportunity to talk to you one more again. We might be having an issue on YouTube. For some reason, I can't see you guys chat over there. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that. So hopefully we'll be able to get that taken care of. But for some reason, I'm having an issue with the live chat replay. So if you're on YouTube for some reason, I do apologize that for some reason I cannot see your I might not be able to see your comments on there. So please forgive that. For some reason that happens every once in a while when YouTube's having issues, so I do apologize. Oh, okay. Weird. Okay. So I tried to change something in the setting. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, I can see you guys now. For some reason, it switched over where I couldn't see you guys' comments. Alrighty, cool. So how you doing on YouTube? Hello, Denise. Hello, Sister Rhonda. I don't know if that's been going on for more than just today or not. If it has been, I do apologize. Hello, Minister Tamara, Big Brother Thomas, Anthony, Sister. I'm having a moment here. I don't know why I'm having an issue with the name. The name somebody we see all the time. It'll come back to me. I apologize. Ricky, Bounty, everybody who's on. Thank you so much for being on with us. We appreciate you. And as always, we give, once again, I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And we're going to get into today, part 34 of this FAQ series. We've been talking about genocide the last couple of times, and we've been talking about how important it is that we comprehend what this word means. Because if we're not aware, and how you doing, Iron? If we're not aware of what's going on as far as genocide, how you doing, Trevon? How you doing, Sister Beverly? When we don't comprehend what genocide is and what it means and what it does and what it's doing, we get into a place to where we're not actually able to realize that genocide, once again, is a war crime. And if there's genocide going on, then it's a war crime. If it's a war crime, then it means you're at war. And it means that criminal behavior is being done, because even thieves should have honor, right? There's an old saying that there's honor amongst thieves. And so even people that are doing wrong should be in a place of honor. And so if we're fighting a dishonorable foe, we need to know universal law, kingdom law, natural law. We need to recognize that we're dealing with somebody who's going to try to bend the law. We need to recognize that we're dealing with people who are not looking at trying to go to new levels, that are looking to try and do things at a greater level, etc. How you doing, Prince Lasheen? How you doing, Brother Clem? And we've got to recognize these items, right? So this is part 34. We've been talking about genocide, I believe, in part 32 and part 33. And today we're going to talk about battle, right? Specifically, a battle plan. If you're at war, then you deal with a bunch of battles. How you doing, Ms. Mack? And so if we're at war and we're dealing with a bunch of battles, then we have to say to ourselves, well, then next up is, what's the plan, right? What is the plan of attack? What is the thing that we have in place, right? We've been talking about trying to separate ourselves and become greater and do what we're supposed to do. And so what is the next level? How you doing, Poppy? What is the next level? Or Pappy, is it Pappy? Poppy? Just Poppy, right? We got to look at a battle plan. We don't really have a battle plan, but that's what we should be looking at. How you doing, Anoint My? I don't know if I said that right, Anointi My or Anoint My. Uh, but we have to realize and recognize and think about what's going on, right? And what is the battle plan? Now, we recognize that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. However, we realize that whatever we use in our non-carnal warfare will manifest physically, right? How you doing, Carl B. Keaton? Thanks for being part of the community. And so, if the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, however, they will show up physically, and the weapon, then that also means, right? We got to recognize that when it comes to our enemy, whichever enemy you want to discuss today, right? That no matter what that enemy is, whether that enemy is using chauvinism, which by the way, chauvinism is different than male chauvinism. Chauvinism originally means that you're dealing with patriotism at an extreme level, right? And so a lot of stuff, if you notice, has kind of been disguised as patriotism, and not just American patriotism, patriotism to the West, patriotism to alt-right, patriotism to some stuff. Believe it or not, you got to be careful, because just because people look like you, not all skin folk is kinfolk. So some of this patriotism is dipped in Afrocentricity, right? Right. So, oh, okay, like butterfly in French. All right, I didn't know the word butterfly in French. Oh, okay, so LON. So would it be like LION or like LON, kind of like motivation or something like that? So like papillon. I don't know if I'm even saying that correctly. En français. Bonjour, by the way. So I'm not even sure. Um, so I didn't even know. I was, what is it? Wow, my languages are off. When you don't speak your languages, when you don't speak different languages, you don't keep them up as well. Because in Espanol, butterfly is, um, wow, it was like right on the tip of my tongue. We used to have like shirts and stuff. We used to have them on. But anyways, thank you for being on though. Papillon. Okay, papillon. Okay, merci. Yeah, so, oh, you're Haitian. Well, I mean, Haitian people speak French, and then they try to, do something to our people, and they started trying to, hit us with the patois stuff, as if slang can't be a language. But anyways, try to tell us we slang and all that. Which, I'm being honest with you, but what's interesting? I didn't know that when it came to that they didn't just do that to Haitians. They did mariposa. Gracias. Yeah, I didn't know that they did that to us. Just period. Like anybody who was speaking French, but French, in all honesty, just to keep it real, it's not even necessarily racism. The French people they really protective of their language. Don't even call it French; they call it the French, right? Le Français, right? And even with their names, they have a specific amount of names that they say that you can name your children, male or female, if you're born in France. So they're very protective over their culture, as they should be, right? But thank you for that. I totally forgot, or I didn't know about papillon, and I definitely have forgotten myself as far as Spanish. When you don't speak languages, you start losing them. So I thank you for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, you said, did I see Saturn and Mars and the moon lined up? No, I did not. I was not even aware that that was a thing. Maybe I should be. Um, but I did not see that at all. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know what people are saying it's supposed to mean. I guess before we get deep into this, because that's not what we're going to be focusing on today. But I can try. Let me see. Let me look up Saturn, Mars, Moon. That's okay. Something about the Saturn, Mars, Moon conjunction. Okay, just said see it. Okay, I don't even know what it's supposed to mean. Right. Kofi, my name. It means Friday, basically Friday born. I mean, it kind of. I mean, born on a Friday, born, something along those lines. We have different. I can say, well, in major parts of many parts of Africa, it's used, but it's kind of hyper focused on like Western Africa. There's certain names that we have: Kwame, Kofi, Yao, and those are just male names. You have stuff like on the woman's side, Ama, etc., where you're born. And it's kind of like in our culture, you have these names, and then on our culture, like on the eighth day, for the boys. We want to circumcise. We don't circumcise our girls, even though somebody will look for one African tribe that does. But but when the boys hit the 8th day and they're circumcised, you name them. For the girls, once you get to the 15th day, I believe it is, you would name them or whatever. But today we're going to talk about a battle plan, right? The last couple of days, and if you want to catch up on those, we have them on YouTube. So part 32, and part 33 talk about genocide. And so those, we talked about that once again, what genocide is in war. So now we want to go into a battle plan. And once again, if the weapons of our warfare is not carnal, right, then we need to recognize that first we've got to have a battle plan that's not carnal. We also have to recognize that whatever battle plan there is, though, it will go from the carnal to manifesting into the carnal. In other words, it's going to start off spiritually. It's going to start off mentally. It's going to start off emotionally. It's going to start off in a different place. And then as we continue to go through, how you doing, Sister Deja? As we continue to battle, whatever battle is there manifesting in the spirit, it makes its way to the physical. So going back once again, you have these battles dressed up as stuff like chauvinism. Chauvinism means patriotism. You're going to have the battle dressed up as misogyny. That's men trying to make women go down. You're going to have it dressed up as misandry. That's going to be women trying to put down men. You're going to have it dressed up as patriarchy. That's more so at least as far as modern terms, white, by the social construct, white supremacy, bringing down other people that don't look like them. You're going to have it dressed up in you're going to have it dressed up in politics. You're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're a communist, etc. How you doing, Sister Barbara? Thanks for being part of the community. Is it Suede? 007 Suede, and I missed somebody else. How you doing, Naya? Oh, Alexia Kosi. Thanks for being part of the community. And so when we're dealing with these things and we're operating in this, let's go ahead and get into this. I'm feeling this right now. I'm starting to get into it now. Hallelujah. I was tired, but I'm kind of driving through. Amen. All right, or traveling through. Well, I had it right there. I got to drive on there. How you doing, Sister Nakia? So when it comes to chauvinism, right, which is, when it comes to this stuff, when we're talking about any ism, any system, racism, schism, classism, anything we want to bring up, we have to realize that there's a battle going on. And as we talked about with genocide, how you doing, Sister Ostrom? The thing with genocide is that it started off in the mind. It started off in the spirit. It started off in society of the mind, right? A societal norm that was mental. All these things we're discussing nowadays and all these things that we're trying to get really deep into and have these extremely deep conversations with, etc. We have to recognize that they started off with the mind. They started off with a thought. They started off with what we would call a theory, right? And these theories are things that people are keeping as facts. And so our battle is we're battling against many different theories, and we don't even comprehend the facts. And a lot of times we don't even recognize where these theories came from, right? It's not, we live in a society that is against the norm. It is not normal, or at least it used to not be normal, for a theory to get play as if it is a fact. But it's become extremely the norm that theories get more play than facts, right? What is something that's theoretical? A theory is not something that is real. A theory is something that somebody just uses as an explanation temporarily. But because we become so enamored in the temporary and not the eternal, we're having a whole bunch of problems, right? We're having a bunch of problems with our personal lives, with our societal lives. We're having problems with our education. Matter of fact, high education is not based upon facts anymore. It's not based upon context. Here we believe in contextual facts where they go together, but now it's become highly based upon theory. Even the terms that we use, if we be honest, right? Let's just keep it 100. Things that we tell people are the end all be all. We say, this is it. This is the truth. This is the fact. This is what it is. You can't tell us any different, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sorry, I'm going to change my setup some because the sun is right behind me and it's already messing with YouTube, son. But we don't want to realize, recognize, and operate from the fact that we're more theoretical. So we use things as theories and we don't even use facts. right? We end up arguing even over theories, and we're not even arguing over facts, right? Like we're actually having arguments with people based solely upon what is theoretical, right? And somebody would say, well, what do you mean by that? For example, how do you argue with somebody about the gravity of a situation when gravity is a theory? Right? I mean, how do we argue? Why do we argue against something that we know is a theory? And it's a theory that, by the way, we know has been disproven because the theory of relativity disproved it. Right? Things that we've talked about before, but let's just keep it 100. How you doing, Stella? Um, the the theory has been disproven, but we still use the term. You got to understand the gravitas, right? The gravitas of the situation, the gravity of the situation. Man, you got to comprehend it. Just like gravity is going to hold you down. It's a theory. It's a theory that's been disproven. And once again, we don't even know what the theory is because gravity is not supposed to be a theory. It just means you can't float up into the air. It means what keeps you in place. It means what keeps you from going side to side. It means what helps inertia. All these different things. It is a theory that has been disproven, but we live by it every day. What about the theory of evolution? It is a theory. It's a theory that was never proven, by the way, and it is a theory by somebody who had a warped sense of Christianity, who was a person who was a lunatic, not lunatic by what we think nowadays means crazy. The word lunatic means people that worship the moon, and people eventually. Oh, hey, how you doing over there in Queensland? I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Um, you know, that this theory of, hey, there's something that there's first of all 6 types of evolution, and we don't even know that. There's only one type of evolution that we can say has any kind of factual base, and it's not even really evolution. It's the sixth type. The sixth type of evolution says, hey, if I am dealing in a basically like if two of the same species come together and have a child, or have a baby, or have any type of offspring, then that offspring will look a lot like the mother and father, but will have slight variations. That's not really evolution. But the person came up with the theory that people mainly use, or at least have tried to use and glean from, even if they say that theory is wrong, is Charles Darwin. And Charles Darwin was a lunatic. He worshiped the moon. He was a Christian. That's what he actually went to school for. He went to school to become a Christian preacher. That's what he graduated in, or at least that's what his family paid for him to graduate in. Hey, Shalom Shabbos, how you doing? So, you're sitting there. This is what we're dealing with, right? This is what we're dealing with. Hey Nick, how you doing? So this is what we're dealing with, right? Is we're dealing with a whole bunch of theories. A lot of people don't know that these are theories. Matter of fact, the theory of evolution, if you read the book that a lot of people talk about when they talk about the survival of the fittest and what Darwin speaks on and things like that, his book that was the most popular is literally named The Origin of Species, the Theory of Evolution, the Struggle of Survival for Favored Races, which means that he wrote the book based off of the white race needing to survive. And he tried to say that there's a God somewhere that created things to evolve, and white people are supposed to evolve. Now, where would he get that from? Well, you have stuff like the white man's burden. You have stuff like manifest destiny. So that's probably a theory that we should not use. How you doing? Be kind. Thanks for being part of the community. So it's a theory we should steer clear of, but we are so into theory and not fact, right? What is a theory, by the way? A theory, really, if I could just make it simple, is you have point A and point C. Point A is real. Point C is real, but you can't figure out how to get from A to C. You don't know what's real in between. So you come up with a theory, right, to be B, and therefore you can make sense in your mind, A, B, C. But in reality, it is a thought process in futility, right? It is a thought process in the non-factual. Why? Because it is cognitive dissonance. Because we know A and C are true, B we're not sure, but we're going to treat B as if it is just as relevant as A and C. A theory can be an accepted hypothesis, sure, right? But in a hypothesis is only, like, watch this, a hypothesis is only valid if you do an experimentation. See, going back to a battle plan, we don't even know that all these theories that we're using that are really just accepted hypotheses shouldn't be accepted as fact. A hypothesis should be accepted as something that we should be able to actually experiment upon, right? Because a hypothesis leads to what? Hypothesis is an if-then statement. If the sky is if the sky is blue, then like it can be something crazy, right? But let's just come up with something. If the sky is blue, then it is blue due to the fact that the sun's rays come through the atmosphere. Okay, now we have to figure out and say, okay, this is the type of experiment we're going to do. These are the controls that we're going to put in place. These are the options that we want to do. This is the medicine that we like to be, or I'm not medicine, sorry. I'm thinking about something else. Sorry. this is this is where we're going to go. This is how we're going to look at it over the sky in Australia. This is how we'll look at it over the sky in the United States of America. This is how we'll look at it over the sky in Sierra Leone. This is how we'll look at it, over the sky in Antarctica, all these different things, right? Then we go through the process, and there got to be controls in each place. So everything has to be controlled because we're supposed to get the same result. Then we go through it for a while. We make sure that it's long enough to get proper data. We take the data, we look at it, we keep the data real. We don't change the data, which, by the way, a lot of people in the evolution have gotten in trouble for, even at big time colleges, for being able to switching up what stuff is, right? Kind of like, a Christian vibe type thing, even, right? Let's be real, where people switch up stuff, what it is to meet whatever it is. Once you finally finish with all those things with your hypothesis, then you go back to the hypothesis and you say, was the hypothesis true based upon the results? And if the answer is the hypothesis was true, you write a conclusion. If the hypothesis was wrong, you write a conclusion. So even the hypothesis doesn't mean anything without going through a process that gets us to a conclusion. And that is a different, when we're talking about this battle we're in, right? You said under an unproven statement. Yeah, right? Unproven statement. That's what a theory is. It's under an unproven statement, right? So if that's the hypothesis, right? If we have a hypothesis, the hypothesis is supposed to be designed for us to be able to use the hypothesis to get to an actual conclusion. But we're not teaching the conclusions. We're teaching the hypothesis. See where it becomes difficult in the battle. And battle, see, you got to recognize one of the things that happened, one of the things the Holy Spirit brought to me even this rising, was that when you deal with the battle, part of the battle is even presentation. Aman, right? Part of your battle is the presentation. How you doing, Rhonda? Thanks for being part of the community. Let me say that one more again. Part of the battle is the presentation. When people go to war, they make sure that they paint their faces. When people go to war, they make sure they have a uniform. When people go to war, they try to make sure that they might have a certain place to be in that makes it look like it's more difficult. And the other side is already like, oh, it's going to be tough, right? To have the high ground at one point in history was extremely important. Still is, really, right? To have a sniper in a certain position. Joe King, shalom, what's up, sir? Right? To have these different things, it's important. If we're going to have a battle, part of the battle is the presentation, right? When you go to war, you better make sure that you present yourself well. Somebody that presents themselves where everybody's walking around and everybody's got, I don't know, this is old. I don't know if this is still what they carry. It used to be what we carried. You go to war and everybody got an M16 and you're going against people and they ain't got nothing but, poorly put together, I don't know, nines or something. If you go to battle, matter of fact, it ain't that bad. If I go in certain battle, still to this day, the AK, somebody got that AK on them. That AK ain't nothing to play with, especially if somebody know how to use it. So just the appearance of something already makes me go, ooh. That's why a lot of stuff, they have reconnaissance, right? Whether we do drone reconnaissance or you send in your people, your recon to do it, or whatever kind of recon. If you're using physical recon, as far as the people are using virtual recon, if you're using satellite, right, something like that, we look at the appearance of something and we make we make decisions based off the appearance. And so first things first is that in the battle for your mind, they changed the appearance. They told you that things that are completely theoretical. Hey, how you doing, Sister Tracy? Glad to have you on. Literally, they've said the appearance. They changed the appearance. They changed what your appearance is. They do it all the time. Look at iconoclasm. iconoclast, right? Or iconoclastism. There you go. Right. Thanks for being part of the community. Cordiado. I don't know if I said that correctly or not. Right. But this is the thought process, right? That they've literally changed the appearance. Iconoclasts have come in and told you that things that we know to be true are not true. It's called gaslighting too, right? When somebody tries to tell you that what you know is reality, they try to make you feel bad or guilty or make you feel like you're crazy. Part of the battle of your mind. Before we get into the whole genocidal piece to where they commit genocide physically, they had to start messing with the mind. They even had to do with their own people who were going to fight for them. How you doing? Thank you for the love bouncer. Right. Second time was perfect. Okay. Yeah, I messed up the spelling the first time. Cordiado. I try to make sure I do that better. These are the things that are real, though. We're not having conversation that people have changed the appearance. You change the appearance of somebody over and over and over again. You change the appearance. Guess what happens? When I change the appearance, now I change what you fight for. If I can make it appear that your fathers want nothing to do with you, why does fatherhood become important? Or if I make it appear to you that your fathers don't care about you, then your culture's fatherhood is not important, but somebody else's fatherhood becomes more important. Matter of fact, now you'll start studying how other people father their children, and you won't even realize that percentage-wise, your fathers are actually there in your children's lives more than anybody else. All I had to do was what? Change the appearance. If I tell you about Herod, and I keep telling you about Herod and how this happened, and he was the king of Israel and all these things, and you go, oh, okay, well, you know what? Like, you won't even realize the pictures and things of Herod. You only recognize, how you doing, Sister Betty? You don't even realize and recognize that Herod did not look like you. And if you do some calculations, you'll discover that Herod, how you doing, Treese? You'll discover that even Herod was not even an Israelite. Right, make it appear your people culture doesn't exist. Yeah, theory of spiritual Israel, right? Or who Israel really is, right? Because they're not even talking about spiritually, because they're not even dealing in the Tanakh as much as they're dealing in the Talmud. How you doing, Perfectly Imperfect? These are the things that we're still dealing with, right? If I can change the appearance, see, battle, we're talking about a battle plan. First things first, your appearance has been changed. So first things first, can I get you to appear like yourself? If we're going to have a fight, right? If you're going through these things in your personal life, in your personal situation, do you appear as yourself or do you appear as somebody else? Question I have to ask right off the bat. How you doing, Shalom Taqwa? Like, I have to deal with the appearance. How do you appear? Where do you appear? When do you appear? Right? Yeah, straight up. Cordiado, like, exactly. Like, Herod was not even just an ambassador. Well, he was an ambassador. You're absolutely correct. But they tried to make him king, and he was a puppet king because he was part of the gens or Gentilic family that was in position. He's connected family-wise, blood-wise, to Caligula and to Nero, not to Vespasian, but Vespasian still let him stay over there. And we know this by Flavius Josephus, who's one of us. So I change the appearance, and so they have all types of places all over the world. When you go to a lot of different art museums and things like that, you'll find pictures of Herod, and they make Herod look like, or actually, let me say it this way: they make your people look like Herod. So now, when it comes time to go to war, and you're going to war, as far as a spiritual battle, a historical battle, even. And you're trying to say, okay, I'm trying to get this thing straight in my mind and make sure that my mind is connected to the truth, right? Who is this person? And you don't even recognize that this ain't just something that happened with chattel slavery. This is something that way back then they were already trying to tell you, right? Like, you have to understand, when you're dealing with Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, there's a lot of evidence that says that those Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes were not Israelites either, at least not fully. And I'm not talking about fully as far as blood. I'm talking about they were putting people that look like Herod in those places too. So now you got to see some conversations when the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes are talking to Yashua, and Yashua is talking about not only are you guys traders, but he's talking about you guys don't even know what you're talking about. You have to start getting to a place where you realize, is it possible? Which it totally could be possible, right? But do some study for yourself. But you have to start asking yourself when you're studying, is it possible he's talking to somebody who's saying they're Israel and are not? Could it be possible that therefore some of the things that you're reading are he's treating the very Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes that are trying to act like they have power over him? He's actually treating them like they try to treat the Samaritan or the Gens or the Gentile or the pagan, right? But we don't recognize those things. The battle has already been done, because part of the battle is who has the high ground, who's wearing the uniform, who can fill in, who can hide in, right? Guerrilla warfare, what they call guerrilla warfare, is when it's not typical warfare that's right in front of you, right? Guerrilla warfare is not typical warfare. Guerrilla warfare is we trying to make sure that we fit in here, do this or whatever. We hide, we hit you, we come out, we come right back. And there's a lot of stuff that's presented to you in a manner when it comes to battle in which it's not designed to be right in front of you. And you got to realize how to protect yourself from the person who's going to come and hit you on the side and then go back in. Papillon says, you were saying, I was reading John, and when when a spoken Pharisee was mentioned, they specified that specifically he was an Israelite, so I assume not all of them were. Yeah. That's real talk. A lot of people don't recognize that. That's a great catch. How you doing, Ransom? Yeah, so that's what I was saying. When you read it, start reading it with the mindset that every time that you see Pharisee, Sadducee, scribe, it doesn't mean that they are an Israelite, which means when you hear things that Yahshua says, like Matthew chapter 5, this on the Sermon on the Mount. So he's talking to everybody. Remember, the Sermon on the Mount was not just the Israelites either. It was the people who had gathered from all over the place, right? However, when you read Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, you will discover that he says, you need to know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. Why would he say that? Because the scribes and the Pharisees not only were on some stuff as far as they were getting away from the Most High, also these scribes and Pharisees, they don't know the law because they're not actually legally supposed to be scribes and Pharisees. How you doing, Shay? Thanks for being on today, right? You have to realize, so in the battle, part of the battle is the presentation. Sister Tracy said the battle of the alarm clock. I hear you. I feel you. It took me a lot to be able to get up today, and I was up, and I got in the sun, man. But today's one of those days. I don't know if I just didn't sleep well or whatever. I know I was hydrated. I've been doing really well with hydration, but I've been out a lot in this 90-something degree weather, so maybe I got to step up the hydration. I feel like I've been drinking twice as much as what I normally drink, but I get it. Thanks for being part of the community, Jasmine. Appreciate it, Jasmine, the boss. So when we're talking about the battle plan, first things first, once again, remember what I said, that if you must comprehend that the weapons of your warfare are not carnal. Oh, you said same for you? Yeah. And the weapons of your warfare are not carnal, but they will manifest into the carnal, that you got to recognize that the weapons of your enemy are not carnal either, but they will manifest into the carnal. And here's a huge deal in that. That means that your enemy, for a lot of us, we once again, we disrespect our enemy. We disrespect who we're going against. We disrespect what the mindset is of these people that we're dealing with. And we think, oh, okay, they don't really know what's going on. Oh, okay, they're not really ready for this. Oh, okay, I've got more stuff going on. How you doing, Dr. Knight? I've got all this stuff going on. I'm going to speak to the enemy. I'm going to stomp on his head. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All these different things that you hear. But people disrespect the enemy. And your enemy knows that the weapons of the warfare are not carnal either. You said God isn't real. That's cool. I don't believe in God. I believe in Elohim, right? There's a difference between God, Elohim, a netjer, a deity. They're not the same. You're dealing with different cultures. Either way, if that's your way of saying hello, I think we should first greet each other as human beings. So hopefully you believe in humanity. So I would first say hello to you. And secondly, you're going to have to get past the God isn't real thing. That doesn't really do any damage to me. Because just because something's not real to you doesn't mean that it's not real. Nevertheless, we have to be, you said it was 94 in Tampa. Oof, I think we only got up to 92. I like sun and everything. I don't mind being in the sun, but I'm just saying I have not been there. But yeah, people come on. Oh, God isn't real. Like, okay, somebody could say my child isn't real. Just because you've never seen him, it doesn't mean he doesn't exist. You just have more faith in that because you've seen enough children. So you go. Somebody says they have a child, you believe it, but it doesn't mean that it's true. Oh, it's 105 in Cali. Wow, but Cali, do y'all deal? Well, I guess someplace, yeah, because some depends on where you live in Cali. I guess I was gonna say, do you deal with humidity and all that? I guess it depends on where you are. And thanks for being part of Community Geeky. And how you doing, Sister Dawn? So, like I'm saying, like to get back to where we were, right? You got to comprehend that that's a battle. You say, yeah, probably doesn't believe in air, yeah. Even though he would say, we can prove the air exists because I can feel it or I can do whatever, blah blah, right? Nevertheless, though, like it's the battle. You got to recognize it's the battle, right? You got to deal with that battle. How you doing, Sister Shima? That battle plan, and the battle plan, part of it is the appearance. Part of it has been the appearance. Okay, y'all have had 75, 80 degree. Okay, right? You said if I got a retwist, you're not trying to be funny. Yeah, but I don't worry about it. It's not in my culture to retwist. We just let our hair grow. So it grows what it looks like. So it is what it is. I feel like it's epic now. But at the end of the day, we've got to get past this thing. Like there's a battle, there's an appearance. Even people who come on, you know, um, even people who come on or whatever, and I don't think that person actually meant any harm by it. I was just letting them know it's not my culture to worry about it. But the battle of the appearance of things. We don't even talk about the appearance. What do things appear? A lot of these things are designed to appear a certain way, and we don't want to be honest. They're designed to appear a certain way, right? And so you're dealing with a lot of stuff. Like how many people come up and preach a sermon to you, and you don't think that they're even preaching correct. Now they've changed it to where people be wearing clothes, t-shirts and things like that because they're trying to get into this new fad. We want to look like the world and anything, but we should have never worried about looking like the world or somebody else's system. We should have never worried about that. We should have never been concerned about how somebody else is looking at something. It should have been you. But see, the battle was to change the appearance. You said it's epic. Now people hate when things aren't how Europeans like us to be. Well, most have. Papillon said, "What are your thoughts on getting a haircut to move more efficiently, depending on your position?" I mean, to each their own. I hate the fact that we feel like we have to be part of a system that says that we got to get the haircut in order to move on. But at the end of the day, they each their own. I mean, even within Yashtel or even within Shwe Nation, which is, I'm talking about more West African, Midwest African or whatever, or upper Midwest African, if you will. Like as far as my people, where I'm from, what I do, where I'm from, where we're from, what we do, we're okay with our hair being like this. And I'm blessed to be in a situation where I don't have to worry about those things or concern myself with those things. So I'm not mad at anybody or frustrated with anybody for doing whatever. Like there are groups of Israelites who did cut their hair. Not everybody who was Israel didn't cut their hair, but it's certain groups who did certain things and there's certain traditions. So if you feel like keeping the tradition, you keep the tradition. But if you feel like getting a haircut is something that's there, that's fine. I'm just saying that for a lot of us, the only reason we get the haircut is because we've been taught this. A lot of us don't think about, we don't get the haircut because our people in Africa, our people that are native, our people that are indigenous in many different places and plains, they did it for specific reasons. We don't try to get the haircut like them. We try to get the haircut to make sure that our masters will be approving of it. And with that part, I feel like, okay, maybe we should make sure that we recognize and comprehend why it is we did those things, right? Like the reason the reason I keep my hair like this is not only because I'm shaking my fist at the enemy. It's because that's what our people do. How you doing, Sister Carrie? Right. So these are the things that are there, right? But I'm telling you, like, and I'm just trying to say we do a lot of things because we're not trained to recognize and realize what is us. right? Culturally, exactly. Joe King, like we're not really trained to see what is us. We don't think about it. You know, a lot of people say I'm Seminole. A lot of people say I'm Blackfoot. A lot of people say I'm Choctaw. A lot of people say I'm Cherokee. Right? A lot of people say I'm Wampanoag. A lot of people say I'm Sioux. A lot of people say I'm Lakotas. A lot of people say I'm Dakota. A lot of people say I'm Cali. A lot of, the list goes on and on. We can keep on going, right? A lot of people will say a lot of different things, but not a lot of us aren't even trying to learn the language or at least say a word or two every once in a while, right? We know that we're these things, but we're like, well, being those things don't give us a reward. The problem is though, even that is a weapon of warfare. Weapons of your warfare are not carnal. So we know that we are part of something greater. However, we won't learn the language, like and we won't even use it correctly. For example, we talked about this a lot. The last, well, maybe not a lot, but we talked about this yesterday, I believe. And how you doing? Is it a? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. KT Moment. I'm not even sure. Thank you for being part of the community today. And how you doing? Destination. You said looking at someone's hair before you hear the words is a big tell of lack of insight. It definitely can be. How you doing, Minister Select Burrell? So we have a lot of different things that are going on. You said your chief says if you don't walk red the path, it doesn't matter your blood quantum. Oh yeah, most definitely. Even in that, right? And the blood quantum is even something that they gave to us to make sure that they could say who can live on reservations and who can't. So a lot of the reasons why you have a lot of the problems on the reservations is because a lot of us who should be able to help the reservation don't even think of us as being included, and the people on the reservation don't think of us being included either. So how can we help ourselves, right? If they change what we look like, or if they change what the story of mankind says about us. Thank you. Is it Jovan? Is it Hovan the Elliot or Jovan the Elliot? If I'm saying that correctly, thank you for being on. So we have a lot of different things. We have a lot of different things that are working against us. And when it comes to your battle plan, first thing first, appearance. Second thing, even, which is a huge thing, is we're going to talk about a battle plan, is what? Right? Okay, KTMO ends. Okay. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate you for being on. Right. Another big thing is you're going to talk about a battle plan, location, location, location. They talk about that with your land, right? With your real estate, but location, location, location. That's why real estate is crucial. Real estate is crucial. It's part of a battle plan that they have to get you to buy and to get you to spend more and to get you to do things. Location, location, location. Where are you located? Are you located around people that are like-minded? Have you come together? That's why we're working on YLP 83. We're working on getting our own land. We would like to get it by October. That's the goal, right? I'm be honest. We've had a little. We're not hitting financially all of the stuff to where I can say I'm but I still have faith, right? But we have appearance, right? And then we have location. Location. Where am I fighting from? If I'm like, look, I love our brothers and sisters. I love you if you marched. I love you if you posted everything. I love you if you made sure that your channel became BLM headway, even though we realized that at the end of the day it was more putting our black face on and saying that we're going to use it for LGBTQ plus, just like they did it with the Tea Party, and they put blackface on and they threw tea over and they said we're the Americans now. Remember, you were the original Americans by definition, according to Europeans. Even you were the original Americans. They did the same thing. It's the same mindset. But I love you if you did it, because I know that Black Lives Matter. Even if they didn't do anything for Black lives, I know that Black Lives Matter, and I appreciate it, right? But I'm here to tell you that you can say Black Lives Matter and make your social media look like it's straight black and there's nothing else on there. And I'm talking about the actual color, or even the actual vibe, or the actual people, the actual diaspora. You can do all those great things, and I'm so proud of you for doing so. The next level is now location, virtually. One of the things that we've been trying to do, which is extremely difficult. Can we find a location that we can go to? Like if we were to watch this, if we were to say to all these people that are part of our community, if we were to say, hey, we're going to start going, and I've got to change some things up. I've got to update some things as far as even technology we're using. But if I were to say, okay, look, y'all, tomorrow, we're going to start showing up on such and such an app, because this app is something that's black owned or whatever. And then eventually we said, hey, y'all, we got our own website. We found a way to be able to put these lives on the website. We need y'all to come to the website. Hey, y'all, we do blah, blah, and this and that or whatever. Would we as a community go? It's hard to get us to do it virtually. Now, watch this. Not just virtually, but now, what if I started taking virtually? I said physically. Yeah, no, that's what I was saying earlier. I don't think that you meant anything offensive by it. But I trust our moderators. They do a great job, and sometimes we have a lot of people that try to Shanghai. If you, oh, I don't. That's racist. I just realized I still use that word. I'm sorry. People that try to take over what's going on. I apologize for that. I haven't used that word in quite some time, but I still have that stuff in me. So we got to constantly update ourselves, right? Um, but yeah, so. But yeah, I didn't think that you meant anything by it. I know you were saying you were asking a genuine question, but and that's why I think you were only muted for minutes instead of the whole time or whatever like that. But anyways, like the appearance and the location. It's hard for us because we can't even do a virtual location. A lot of us now we won't even do a fit. Now the next step really got to be a physical location. See, they have us more into marching from one physical location to another. But guess what? When you finish marching, what's going to happen? You got to go back and live in the location you're in. You said Atlanta would be a good physical place. I mean, as long as we could find the land to be able to own and just get, right? We kind of have a couple locations we're already fighting for, but if we found something there that was affordable, that we could still have this, have the same private land and micronation and all that, it'd be great. By the way, just because we get land in one place doesn't mean we're not going to repeat the process. That's why I was telling people, a lot of people didn't like some of the stuff I brought up, because I was telling people, if you really want to go get land, you might want to consider some of the places you don't like, but nobody will be there. You'll be left alone. You can do your own thing. Like you might want to, people, I was telling people about certain places and people were like, oh no, this and that, or it's cold or blah, blah. Like, I know it's cold during certain parts of the year, but remember, our people, even before there was technology, were able to live in the cold. You might want to consider try to do some of that stuff. Why? Because you'll be able to have your own. And when you have your own, you're able to do a lot different. And so, but virtual location, physical location, mental location. I've said this before, I'll say it again. What is the reward? See, in the location that you're in, you have to ask yourself questions. What is the reward for you being yourself? Okay, how you doing, deliberate artistic? Thanks for being on with the community, right? Yeah, we can adapt, but you have to ask yourself, like, what is the reward for you being yourself? Do you live in a place? You got to ask yourself questions. Do you live in a place that says that I will be rewarded for being myself? I'm not even talking about being black right now. I'm talking about, if you an Irish person with red hair and stuff like that, is there a place you can go to where you'll be rewarded? Sure. You call it Ireland, or you can call it America, probably, right? United States of America, even you can call it Canada. Is there a place that you can be rewarded, right? But you go to places where you be rewarded for being you. You said it depends on who you are. Yeah, but watch this. Those places you're going to be rewarded in the places where people reward you for being you, which means that you'll have to have some people that are okay with you being you. You said there's a guy on TikTok in the desert making it work, growing food. Yeah, you can definitely do that, especially if you get raised beds and things of that nature, and you make sure that you have some things that can grow inside. You can do greenhouses, all that stuff, right? It doesn't really matter where you do it. It just matters that you do it. At least start, right? But we're looking into some things and things of that nature. But long story short, like, you have to go to a place where you'll be rewarded, right? Like, do you live in a place where you would be rewarded? You said you've been unable to, or spending your life able to yourself. You want those spaces. Yeah, and part of that is to create space or to get with people who are like-minded. To create space or live with people that are like-minded, right? Like, there's no, and I'm not saying this for any shade. I'm just trying to get you to comprehend, right? Like, why? Like, this is why we even talk about sovereignty. How you doing, Rico? Thanks for being part of the community. This is why we talk about sovereignty a lot. This is why we talk about marriage a lot. This is why we talk about our children a lot, right? This is why we talk about our mindset a lot. This is why we talk about spirituality a lot. We are not rewarded because we don't have spaces where it can be, right? You're in the land of your captivity, and you can say whatever you want, right? You can say whatever you want about this, but if I'm in the land of my captivity, it means that the people who made me captive, amen, Sister Rhonda, the people that made me captive, they are still over me. period. You can try and make this about all this other stuff, and no, it's really about classism. And no. If the people who made you captive are still over you, you're in bad shape. Malcolm X, right? Minister Malcolm Shabazz, he made it a point to say that if you are asking your oppressor for a job, you're in bad shape. And you can dress that however you want. But if you are in a situation where the person who just who just a generation ago was putting crack in your communities, and a generation before that was telling you that you're not even an Israelite anymore. And a generation before that was okay with having Jim Crow and literally saying that you are a bad person. And by the way, kept that up with cartoons and different things like that and taught your children the same thing. And had you sitting there talking about if an elephant could fly, but had to do it with the zoot suit on and the thing. And by the way, even the main characters in that weren't even black folk. It was white people dressing like black folk, blackface, even and stuff like that. You are, yeah, you exactly. You can't sing the songs you need to sing the right way because you're still not in his land. You're not in your land. You're in a strange land. You are the stranger. Now, dig it, right? Sorry for using a musty reference, but dig this, right? I need you to comprehend, like the land itself is only really whoever is upon it, right? But they don't do that nowadays, right? They say your land, what used to be yours. Remember, the definition of the original American, according to law, according to European law, according to the laws of the masters, so to speak, the masters that came over said what? That a American was a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. Then all of a sudden, Boston Tea Party happens. They throw it over. They put on your uniforms, right? Uniforms, if you will, your tribe, your culture. They put you on after they scalped you. They put you on. They put on blackface. They put war paint on top of it, and then they say we are now the American. So they basically said that you are the stranger in their land. Now look at history. Look at history. What just happened in Buffalo? What is that? A month ago now? Still recently. Look at what just happened in Buffalo. Read the manifesto of the shooter. What did the shooter say? He said that anybody that is of color is a replacer. That's what he called you. He said you're a replacer. He said why? Because he said white people are not making sure that they have enough children, and that white people are there having children with people that are considered to be people of color. And so he said, even if he what like think I need you to get the stance, right? I need you to get the stance. He said he was leftist as well. Okay. Yeah, I didn't read all, what is it, 800 pages? I feel it was something crazy, but I read enough of it. We actually went over it on one of the things live and on Patreon too. But I need you to see, I need you to get this. Like he basically said you're a replacer because this is supposed to be this is what people have a belief. This is supposed to be white land. Right? And you're the only people that don't believe you're not at war. You got to recognize that's what we said. This is genocide. We're not dealing with regular stuff. We're dealing with genocide. Like we're dealing in genocide. That's what's going on. And genocide means that and if people are doing this stuff in genocide and are shooting children and mothers and defenseless people and people that aren't soldiers, we call that war crimes. And the only reason you can call it war crime is if you're at war, which means that you're dealing in battles. And it's starting with the mind. His mind had to be convinced. He, as a child, had to watch his hero. He said his hero, he listed a bunch of them, but one of his heroes, Dylan Roof. One of his heroes, George, whatever the guy's name is, that shot Trayvon Martin. Right? He's telling you that we got to get rid of it. And he said in the manifesto, he said, I don't even think that this is what he said. He said, I have not had a bad experience with a black person. He said, I don't think that black children are bad. He said, I don't think that they're evil. He said, I have not had a situation. He said, I didn't come across this. He said that I didn't think that my whole existence or what I'm about to do. He said, I'm not about to do this because I've had terrible experiences. He said, actually, quite opposite. I've had great experiences. He said, I haven't found anybody to do something that made me say, wow, all black people are evil. He said, but they're replacing us. He's made it to where you are the replacer. You are the bad person, right? And just like that it's dealing with the mind. You think that the battle started because he shot the gun. You're not thinking about the fact that the battle started when Aristotle, before Christ was born, was telling people that people that are slaves were born into slavery and people that are leaders were born into leadership. You didn't think about the fact that the battle was still going on in the mind when um ah um who was the guy that was messing around with Cesare Borgia's, or with Cesare Borgia? Borgia was the son of the Pope. Yeah, Cesare Borgia. He was messing around with Machiavelli. Machiavelli. You didn't think about what was going on with Machiavelli hundreds of years ago. When Machiavelli was out there saying that if you're going to be a good person, you got to be a bad leader. If you're going to be a great leader, you got to be a bad person. That causes somebody, that's a mindset, that's a spirit, whether you like that word or not. That's a psyche. Maybe you like that word more, that's psyche, the psychology, but psychology literally means the study of the soul. So whether you like these terms or not, there's a spirit, there's a soul attached to this, right? And somebody's messing with your soul. When you go to a psychologist, they study your soul. That's what the word actually means. You can try and dress it up. Or when somebody talks about universal law, they talk about the energy and this and that or whatever. Universe literally means a single spoken sentence. So you can't talk about a universe without admitting that somebody had to speak it into existence. They're dealing with you and taking away your culture and telling you everything that you were raised on, your people were raised on, and even your people who were original people. They're telling you that everything that is there, they're telling you to come out of it. When the reality is you should be coming out of their nonsense. Be in the system, not of it. You're not going to change a genocidal society by sending your children in to be in charge of the genocidal society. You're going to change it by coming out of it and by having something set up for you. Also said, but the black children grow into the replacers. Yeah, so they have to be killed too. Exactly. So he'll say that, hey, I'm going to feel bad about shooting black children, but he says, hey, if they got to go, they got to go. Cognitive dissonance. He comprehends it doesn't make sense to kill them because they're innocent, but at the end of the day, he says, still got to kill them. Like he makes the excuse. I agree with you on that, puppy. Only the creator can create energy anyways. Somebody has to speak the universe into existence. Even people that believe in multiverses, you're literally saying that there's a bunch of sentences being spoken. So you still have to go to a place that all the sentences started at some point with somebody who spoke the ultimate sentence, right? And that's why it's evil. We're dealing with a battle. There's evil. But see, watch this. Now we have a problem with the battle that starts in the mind. Because, hey, how can somebody be evil if we're now arguing that there's really no such thing as morality? How you doing, Jess Banks? Right? How can we argue about evil if there's no such thing as evil? Now, see, and look at this. This is what your children are watching, right? And if we talk about spiritual battle, yeah, we're talking about pneumatical thought. That's a word that's used anyways. If you don't like the word spirit, that's where the word spirit came from as far as what most people mean when they mean spirit, right? It actually could go back to Ravako Ruach, but most people are doing Greek and Latin, so let's stick with that, right? Because see, even in the system, they tell you that something's not scientific unless it's Greek or Latin. So once again, let's peep these words that they use. Pneumatical thought. What is the pneuma? Pneuma is the Stoic thought that marries the spirit, the body, and the soul together. So whenever you see in ancient times the word mind written, they're talking about the pneuma. They're talking about spirit that puts the mind, the body, and the soul together. What about if you're talking about psyche or psyche? Psyche literally means psyche in the Greek. It literally means the soul. The soul is supposed to be the thing that keeps the body and the spirit together. Matter of fact, it's thought to have been what some of you call the third eye, right? Because from the side it looks like an eye, or if you call it the pineal gland because it actually is shaped like a pineal gland, about half the size of your finger, half the size of your thumb usually, right? And it's supposed to be the thing that actually causes melanin to flow through you, whether that melanin has sulfur at the center of it or whether it has selenium at the center of it. No matter what term you want to call it or you want to change it into, you got to realize that it's a battle going on. Matter of fact, when the sperm hits the egg, it starts to wrap around to where the whole baby is developed around what you call this third eye or this pineal gland. The baby even starts off and eventually it starts curving itself around and comes around and shapes itself around that very place that those two come together. Right? Which terms? You talking about third eye or things like that? And I'm not even saying I'm against it per se. I don't necessarily believe in the third eye as far as the eye of Horus and all that, but I get what people are trying to say. They're trying to represent what's going on as far as this specific place that does a specific thing in their body. How you doing, Minister Sonia? How you doing? Is it I don't know if it's Michelle, Michael, even Michelle, I'm not sure, but thank you for being on, and thanks for being part of the community. So we're dealing with all these different things, and we don't want to be honest, and have this honest conversation, right? We're dealing with stuff where people won't be honest. We're dealing with people trying to change. Now, remember, I've talked about this before. See how all this word goes together? Those of you who've been with us for a minute, you got the mind. I'm sorry, let's go to this. You got something that's fine, defined, and redefined. And now we've got to refine it. Somebody who hasn't been with us, you might have missed that. But you have something, it's fine. When it's fine, it's pure. When it's fine, it's about breaking, right? If somebody gets a break and they say you got a fine break or something, they're saying that basically it's something that's really small, that's keeping it really, in essence, they're saying it's keeping it from being fine, right? But if your bone is intact, it's fine. If it gets broken, it's actually defined, right? If you were to say even on your body, if you had just a body and it just goes straight down, you say it's fine. But then if you can see your abs, you say what? You see your chest, your abs, things like that, you say it's defined. We're breaking down what is fine. To say it's fine, your body is one. To say it's defined, you start breaking down your body. You start saying, oh, those are abs, right? That's your chest. That's your breast. That's the nipple. That's the shoulder. That is the hair. That is the nail. That is the pinky, etc. Right? So, but it's fine. Your body is fine. It's one. It's supposed to be treated as fine. And so what happened is we had words and we had culture that was fine. People have come by, though, and defined it. When somebody wants to take over, they want to define you. So they begin to take what was one. We were all one. And then they said, hey, you know what? You guys don't like those people like that anyways. We'll go ahead and help you out. And if you can help us, we'll take over, then we'll help you to beat them up. And then they took them as slaves. And a lot of people don't even know when they talk about what black people sold black people. They don't want to talk about the fact that a lot of those tribes, when they found out that the people were leaving, they thought that white people were cannibals for a second because people would just be gone. They're like, how are the people gone? Then they came to find out. They said, oh, wait a minute. They're actually like taking them to another land. That's terrible. And they started trying to fight. So it's fine. It was actually fine. And somebody defined it. They found the places to help you to break these things apart. So you think that definitions are always great. We use definitions because that's what everybody goes off of. But these things were fine the way they were. Now we have it to where it got defined. Then after that, what happened is once they defined it, then they began to redefine it. Because when they defined it, you still could see some semblance of when it was fine. But now it's redefined. So somebody comes on here, you're talking about spirit. Oh my gosh, I've got to get off of here. You're talking about spirit, right? But you used to use the term, you still use the term pneuma. Well, you're talking about the soul. Oh my goodness, I have to get off of here, right? But you're still using the term psyche. It's the same words. It's the same thing. It was fine the way it was. Oh, you're talking about somebody who created the universe. I'm done with you. But you believe in universe. You believe in a universe. The universe has to be spoken into existence. That's what the word universe means, a single spoken sentence. It was fine the way it was. But see, you keep trying to break down what's fine. The battle. They keep breaking down what was fine. Oh my gosh, you're talking about a firmament and all these things. Well, actually, I don't believe in the firmament because firmament's a Greek god. That's your thing. I believe in Raquel. Oh my gosh, here you are talking about this again. You're talking about all these different things or whatever. I can't believe you don't believe in the Big Bang. I'm done with this channel. He doesn't believe in the Big Bang. Like, actually, the Big Bang came from Gaia. There was nothing, and then Gaia came into existence. That's where your Big Bang came from. Stop acting like your science is based off of something factual, and start realizing that not only are you dealing in theory, but you're actually dealing in religious theory. When you tell me about the Big Bang, you're dealing in religious theory. You said, how can anyone, and hello to you too, you said, how can anyone deny spirits, especially Christians, when there's a whole Holy Trinity? Well, I'm not Christian per se, but, I believe in the Bible. And yeah, even the first word, if you know about a shut, you will know that It's giving you everything you need. That's the first word of the Bible. A lot of people don't know how to read it in its original form, though, right? You said, so Gaia is part of our culture. Gaia is not part of my culture. I mean, I'm not Greek, you know, and I'm not somebody that believes in Greek gods, because not even all Greek people believe in that, right? But, you know, for those who do or believe in Greek deists, etc., they might believe in that. How you doing, Frankie? You know, so somebody, that's why people come on here, they'll say, man, you talking about this God's not real. It's like, yeah, I don't believe in gods. Gods are something completely different than Allah. But see, the battle is to try and get you, once again, you're supposed to take what's fine. Alacham is fine. There shall be no other alachams or any gods or any netures or any deities or any deities that shall be even compared unto him. And the goal is to get you to focus on foolishness and have an argument in foolishness about whether a God is on the same level as the Most High. He never was. I don't believe in God because God is not alacham. So why do we even have that? Why is that even an argument? It's an argument because we're arguing somebody else's culture. That's not my culture. That's not my standard. Yeah, you said trying to take something that already exists and change it a little to make it their own. Exactly. So it was fine the way it was. And then what do? You define it, you break it down. Once it's defined, now what happens is you redefine it. And see, it was fine. We were all in agreement that that was what it is. Look at ancient Chinese writing. Ancient Chinese writing, they will tell you, they admit to you. And Shangdi is their way of saying Alacham, as they say, they're right. Just like people in Canaan at one point, they said Baal, sure, but Baal used to be their version of saying Alacham. But then they started worshiping false Shangdis, false Baals. Some of us started worshiping false Alachims, false gods, false deities, whatever. And now when people talk about those words, it's not the same. Some of them, it never was the same. But those people are talking about things that are not the same. They take what was fine and now they've defined it. And once they define it and they get you to agree and that it can be defined, it never should have been defined. It was fine the way it was. The word, the etymology, it means what it means. But what we did was we said it was fine. It was one body. It was fine. Then all of a sudden it's defined. Well, we're going to say that the arm is more important than the eye. We're going to say the eye. The Bible speaks against this, right? The eye is more important than the elbow, and the elbow is more important than the toe, right? And that's why you guys think that people have different values, not just different value system. Like you think that they're of a different value. You think that Bill Gates is more valuable than somebody else. Where do they do that at? Does Bill Gates' heart pump better than yours? Is Bill Gates' vision better than yours? Oh, well, he's got more money. Money, if you would get over the fact that money's like not like if you could recognize money's not real, somebody defined to you, somebody told you that money was real. Money was never real. And it's definitely not as real nowadays when we know that fiat cash, 97% of it isn't even worth the paper that it's printed on. It might be less now because I'm going off of an old statistic. Right? Yeah, and there's intention to this stuff. But see, even people who started that, you got to say to yourself, why did somebody start telling you that the earth was made by accident? Is it because they believe it? Exactly. Don't change jot or tittle. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. No, verse 18, excuse me. Right? But why did they start saying that? So you got to even look into who started telling you that this was an accident. Did anybody that was it somebody who wanted you to bow down? See, watch this. When did somebody start telling you that you needed to use the name Jesus? Well, I tell people when it comes to your Bible, you need to know the culture first. You can read just about any Bible if you know what the culture is. And some Bibles, then you'll realize how bad they are, how great they are, if you know the culture and you know what even some of the words are actually supposed to be. Right? You said Jesus is not a name. Um, I mean, in a sense, if we're talking about Yesus or Yesu, in a sense it is, and it's something that people are trying to tell us it's a name. So, right? Um, en français, ma femme, uh, français, uh, you know, excellent. I don't know. I don't remember how to say that, but I don't speak. She's fluent. I'm not. Je suis. So you are. Yeah, I know. Je suis. Like Oh, you are? Are you saying you? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what that means. Are you saying you are him? Is that right? If that's the case, then we are already shutting that down. But I'm not sure. My French is not great. If my wife's on, maybe she can translate later. Um, but these are things that we're dealing with, right? Now let me get back on track. Let me look at these comments so I can remember what we were talking about. Yeah, not one job, not one tittle. Universe didn't come by accident. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So these things were fine, then they were redefined, and when they were redefined, then all of a sudden we took what was fine and redefined, and then we took. I'm sorry, it was fine, it was defined, and then they got you to agree to defining it. They got you to agree to break up. They got you to agree to, hey, we don't have to be one in this. We can be against one another, or we can argue this stuff. But this stuff used to be without argument. It used to be there's a specific way that this has to be. Period. And that's what we used to do, right? It used to have to be a specific way. We believed in that specific way. We taught that specific way. We gave we gave our lives to that specific way. We taught our children that specific way. And then but now all of a sudden, no, it can be defined. So now defined, I want you to think about this now. Defined. It even gets you to places where you have all the SECT, and things of that nature, right? And you have to get into all these different things. So now you get into a sect. What is a sect? A sect is out here, right, getting us to start getting to places of there's different classes now. So now you can be defined, right, or defined as what? As a Christian, as an Orthodox Christian, as a follower of the way, as an Alexandrian believer. A lot of people don't even know like the difference between an Alexandrian Bible and the real Bible. The NIV is an Alexandrian Bible. A lot of people don't even know there's a doctrine of Balaam. There's a doctrine of there's a Nicolaitan doctrine. We're warned about the Nicolaitan theoretical mindset twice in the book of Revelation, in chapter 2 alone. These are things that are there. These are things that are there right in front of our faces, right? And so you have this Nicolaitan doctrine, this crafting, this mastery. Even we don't want to give credit, but somebody took time out to craft this thing to get you to go away from what was original. You said shapes are man-made. Technically, you are defining the thing. I mean, I guess. I mean, we get into stuff like that. I mean, people start talking about words are man-made, but then again, the Most High spoke words before there was man. So, I guess we can get into I'm not going to get into those weeds because we could be there all day just on that, right? Maybe we'll have a whole thing where we talk about just that. At the end of the day, it's like somebody the other day was making it a point to say that colors are just the way that we see things or whatever, and everything's based off of energy and frequency and blah blah. And it's like, yeah, I mean that's true, but the Most High created it that way, so obviously there's some purpose in it. You could say that technically nothing is real then, but then if nothing is real, then is the Most High real? Like we get into this weird thing, right, where we're trying to redefine something to where the Most High says this is it, it's fine. When you say Hebrew Israelite, I mean, even Hebrew Israelite, that's something that was not created by, like, I guess you could say I'm black, I'm Hebrew, I'm an Israelite. They started saying black Hebrew Israelites and stuff, Hebrew Israelites, all that. That's not what any of us call ourselves. Now, are there different people who speak as Hebrew Israelites that do a terrible job? Sure. It doesn't surprise me. All have sinned, and there's quite a few people that try to take captive silly people all over the place. It's discussed in 2 Timothy chapter 3. Sure. Right. But we're busy. See, once again, we're taking redefinitions. We're taking something that's fine and then something that's been defined. And now we're about redefining. And so now we think it's redefining. Our goal should be, instead of trying to get into the redefining, right? Our goal is to make something fine. We should refine it. That's what salvation is refining. Salvation is salvaging. Salvation, right? Salvation. Salvation means what? Tion on a word makes it a person, a place, or a thing. It makes it a noun. So therefore, salvation is us taking something that once used to be here, and we're going to put it back in its proper place. We're going to refine it. Right? We're going to take something and we need to put it in its proper place again. It's like, for example, you know, people say, "Up, be careful. I don't get on media, this and that, or whatever." Well, media is just a medium. Now, medium can be great. It can also be used for evil. But social media within itself is not a bad thing. But now it's been redefined so much, and it's been used for propaganda so much on any side of whatever argument, right? On whatever multi form, on whatever the decagon or whatever. I'm not saying that right, but you know whatever multi-sided thing that you're rolling, right? Whatever side you take, people are using these words that used to be fine, and we've defined them. We made it acceptable to break them down from what they were, and now we've redefined them. We made it acceptable to take it away from culture. We made it acceptable to take something away from culture, right? We made it acceptable to say we're going to take away from culture. I'm not really big on the ionosphere as far as being somebody who can really speak to it of anything with any authority. So I apologize. It's I'm looking it up now to double check to see if I know a little more than maybe I think. But what the layer of the Earth's atmosphere that contains a high concentration of ions free? Yeah, that's not my bag. I'm just gonna be honest with you. So you'll lose you'll lose me on that. But you know, like what I'm trying to say is at the end of the day, you know, we have this thing where we've taken things that we're trying to make what was fine, defined, redefined, and we need to refine some things. Right? We need to take something that's fine and refine it. It's fine the way that it was created to be, is ultimately the point. You know, it was fine. The issues have not come as much as we want to talk about other stuff like your food issues. All right, your issues that come from the fact that you're eating food that attacks your body. They did not come because the food needed to be redefined. What's happening now is that people are starting to refine their eating habits. We're just simply salvaging what we used to do. And by the way, we won't admit that different people should be eating different things because your bodies are all created to be different. Right? If you have different types of content in your body, if you have more iron, less iron, something like that, your meal should look different. Like men don't need to have iron in their pills. Iron in your pills will actually make you sick as a man because you develop iron at a greater rate than your female counterpart. But because we've even redefined what it is to be male and female, people get mad if you make that statement. Don't get mad if I make that statement, even if you're somebody, and I'm not talking bad against you, even if you're somebody like, let's say you're a trans man. Well, guess what? Like, we're still going to have to medically make sure that we keep an eye on your womb. Right? It's not that I hate you. It's that I'm still going to have to treat you as a human being that you were created to be. If you're a trans woman, you can be a trans woman all day. Guess what? I'm still going to have to make sure that your sperm is in order, right? Like we get mad at these things because we've redefined so many things, but it's not until you, even as a doctor, the doctor is in front of you. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not giving medical advice, legal advice, right? Financial advice, all that stuff. I'm just giving you contextual facts, right? But let me be real and honest with you. We have all the stuff there, but it's we're so into redefinition that we won't refine things. Our families are hurting because we've decided that husbands and wives are not supposed to be pre-qualified for marriage. As soon as you did that, it was all over. Right? As soon as we did that, it was all over. As soon as we decided that we needed to live, see, I'm not saying like if somebody wants to redefine something, they have every right to do that. What I'm saying is that the second that our lives are governed, that's the battle. Once again, we're talking about the battle, right? The battle plan is to get you to be about the redefine more than what is fine. If you realize what's fine, then you try to refine all the time. The comment about how we interpret color was to say we ascribe the value or diminish it according to our socialization. Yeah, we can say that for sure. Right? As far as the nose is whacked off and stuff like that, I mean, it seems historically, I mean, there are people that would go against it, but it seems if we just listen to French artists, French soldiers about what was going on, that whether it was Napoleon himself or a lot of soldiers that were with him, they didn't like the fact that they saw black noses on things that were supposed to be white because, to be honest, they thought that Cleopatra was going to look completely white like them because Cleopatra was Greek, Ptolemaic dynasty. So they thought that, that Cleopatra was going to look like them, and therefore Cleopatra and all the other Ptolemies that existed, there are a whole bunch of them that existed before she was the last person to reign. They thought everything was going to look like them. They came by, they saw a lot of black people. Black people were looked down poorly, even though Napoleon honestly did have some black generals, or I don't know if they were generals, but he had black people that were in high ranking positions. But he didn't like black folk. A lot of people didn't like black folk. A lot of French folk didn't like black folk. They didn't like the fact what the Moors meant at one point when they had power. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they go back to see how much power we had. And a lot of noses got shot off. So I'd say just, if you do some research on that, you'll probably find that, that's enough substantial stuff for me, but people would argue that. But long story short, yeah, that's why I said they thought the Greeks would look like them anyways, which is a difficult thing, right? Because like we know what the Spartans look like. We know what the Athenians look like. So it's not that difficult. We know what Alexander the Great's father, Philip, the Macedonian, looked like. Don't forget they were Macedonians. Look up what Macedonians are described to look like throughout history. So not what they're painted as iconoclasm. I'm talking about what they look like, what people said that they look like. How you doing, Miss Taylor? So, but long story short, once again, or not long story short, but to get back on track, the goal is to get you and I to come away from what is fine when it was fine. So all these people are doing now when they're selling you stuff is they're selling you as refined. And I ain't mad at it. Like I'm giving you the same thing. I'm telling you what was originally fine. People who are trying to get you to eat healthy. Eating healthy is just refining, going back to what you used to eat. People are talking about grow your own food. We're just refining. That's what you're supposed to do. The battle plan was what? Once again, you're dealing with the appearance. How do you look? What's the position, right? And then we talk about location. What's the position that you take? Now, after that, I'm sorry, you said currently our oppressors are deciding what or whom we battle. Well, that's part of it too. Now, that actually brings us to another point, because now we're going to talk about the battle too. It's the battle of the mind. Willie Lynch told you. Willie Lynch letter or Willie Lynch speech, whichever one you prefer to call it, 1712, right in Virginia. He came over from the West Indies, right, what we call the West Indies, and he told you exactly what what they were going to do. He told you exactly what they were going to call this stuff. He told you exactly what was going to happen. He told you exactly what's going to happen. He said we're going to take the mind. I'm sorry. He said we're going to keep the body and take the mind. That's the warfare. We're going to keep you, right? We'll tell you you're an African American. We're going to keep you, right? We'll tell you that you're Spanish. We're going to keep you, you just can't be an Israelite anymore. We're going to keep you, but we're going to take the mind. This is what they said. And so this is why you got to comprehend. When we talk about getting our own land, people say, oh, you're a black nationalist. Oh, you're a terrible person. Oh, I can't believe that you say that. Anytime you talk about, hey, I should put a black owned sign on my business. Oh, you're a terrible human being. Why do you think that you have to put black owned, this and that or whatever? But you go to an Italian restaurant, you go to a Chinese restaurant. Matter of fact, you don't mind taking my culture, creating the African American Museum right there on the National Mall in your capital of the United States Corporation, and you don't mind making sure that you have you don't mind having soul food down there, which by the way, it ain't real soul food. You ain't trying to give nobody what we really had to eat, but you give them this nice, pristine version of whatever. You don't mind just doing all that or whatever. But the second I say it's black owned, now it's a problem. When it's American owned, it's not a problem. United States Corporation has ownership over it. They'll sell it to you right there. Your children can go ahead and eat it. They can eat like a slave. Matter of fact, if you go downstairs underneath that, you'll be able to see some of the most heinous atrocities that have ever happened to black people. And you can come right upstairs, and we got a nice thing. And one of the things, look, it irks me. I know different people had different experiences with it. I'm going to tell you that museum irked me. I've been there at least twice. I feel like 3 times. And that thing irked me because the first time we went, we didn't go to the bottom section. We just stayed on the top. We kind of sort of looked at some of the stuff. But the thing that irked me was it was nothing but like pop stuff. It was like, look at James Brown. Like they had like one section where they talked about Africa. They didn't even talk about Africa. Now you're saying this is African American, well then why not talk about Africa? They kind of had a little tiny spot where they talked about Africa, right? They say you're supposed to really start up top and then kind of make your way down to the bottom. So we started up top first time. And we went and it was like tiny bit about Africa, tiny bit about other people that live, because that live in Haiti, Dominicano, Cubano, Puerto Ricano, Mexicano, etc. Like there's very little bit Brazilian, etc. But then they basically were like, okay, it was just like, look at James Brown jacket. This is the chair that Oprah Winfrey used. Jimi Hendrix had this guitar, and I was like, I mean, okay. I mean, I'm into music and stuff. Okay, I guess I'm into pop culture somewhat. Okay, I like movies and everything, but like, where are my people at? Like, where are we at? Like it got to be like it was like okay, I see it, like I'm happy, I guess, but it's like I prefer going to a place that's hidden, that's been there that people don't even know about. Go to the African Museum or the African Art Museum. And by the way, they have the African Art Museum and the Asian Museum kind of hidden right next to each other, and they're both really technically the same thing. But you go there, it's like you got to go all the way on the other side. You got to go to a place that you don't even know exists. It's like you walk past it and might not even see it. They got like these little two triangular buildings that kind of pop up, but they're really small. It's almost like a shed kind of thing. And you see them real quick. You're like, oh, and you go in them, and then you go downstairs, and there's a whole bunch of nice stuff in there that's there, right? Oh, hey, how you doing? My wife is on, the Honorable Amma. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. Thanks, babe, for being on, right? But it basically was like, yeah, for me, it was like a pop culture museum. Now, we did go downstairs and we did see some things, and they had some real stuff. And we didn't really, because we had certain age group with us, we didn't really go into some of the stuff that they had. Like at the time, it wasn't a permanent part of the museum, but they had like an Emmett Till thing. But then we also, we've been, at least, so I've been at least 3 times, I think even more than this. But I know we went one time where we were trying to bring our community up, and we had this thing where it was a lot of us, we were taking our children, and so we went, and I was trying to park the car. I didn't even get a chance to go in because they were so disgusted, because they had given this advertisement that basically said, we're going to teach children ABCs, and that's it. And it was like, it said Black Lives Matter or something, teach your children ABCs. So I'm trying to park my vehicle. Everybody else has gone in. So I'm like, yeah, y'all go in. I'm gonna just try and find a parking spot. I find, before I park, I start hearing and getting texts from my wife, and then the brothers that we were with, he starts saying something, and then apparently the mothers were kind of concerned, except one of the mothers. In all honesty, she wasn't as concerned, but even she was kind of taken aback how some of the stuff. And then I finally get to them, and they're like, oh yeah, they were like, like they were saying, they were like, A is for ally and B is for blah blah, and C, and they were like taking them down this road where it had to be the LGBTQ plus agenda. But they didn't advertise it. They advertised it like, hey, it's gonna be children. So the children, and they were all like little that we had in this group. They were into it and everything, but the parents were like, that first of all, just you lied and said it was gonna be something completely different. And then but then it was like, now that we know, though, oh no, they weren't lying. That's what BLM is. BLM is Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter uses blackface to be able to get across their agenda. Oh, your family just went to see that museum on Friday? Cool. Yeah, and to each their own. I'm not even sure what everybody's gonna get out of it. I'm just telling you when we initially went, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's nice that I can say I went somewhere and blah blah and all this stuff. And I guess Oprah put money towards it, which maybe should tell us something about it. That is what it is. Some people don't like it when I talk about Oprah, but maybe I should have known some things were gonna go on about it or whatever. But by the end of it, I was just like, yeah, this was not anything that I would say is of value to me and my people. So I don't know if I really. So I've probably been 3-4 times. I think that's enough for me. Who knows? Though I'll probably go. I like going to museums. So whenever I'm in the area, I usually find my way somehow, some way. I find my way around to their area. It's like even when you go to the Natural History Museum. Like, I want you to think about this. It says natural history. So it's supposed to be the history of nature, right? Natural history. And in the Natural History Museum, they spend more time trying to teach you about evolution than probably anything else. It's supposed to be natural, the nature of things. And they have a bunch of stuff that's theoretical. You said that's, oh, you went to the basement? Cool. Yeah, my wife said that it was, the museum was very disappointing. It was nice looking, but not really much in the way of content. Oh yeah, District of Columbia. We know about that. Washington, the obelisk, right? And then District of Columbia, Goddess Columbia, that's on top of the Congress building. Yeah, so it's more of the same. But that's what I'm saying. Like, their goal is to even change the appearance, to change the location, and then have it where we're sitting up there, in confusion now. Yeah, people don't like it when you talk about their God, right? Oh no, yeah, a lot of us are going through spiritual attack. We should be praying for each other, so we definitely lift you up. Hello, how you doing, Loyal? I believe it is. But you have to recognize and realize that's really what goes on, and the attack on your family is crucial. The battle for your family. See, and I hate to say it like this but you have to be ready for it. Now, we must be positive. We must recognize that you can still be at peace and still be in a battle. It's a weird thing to even talk about, right? Matter of fact, you can't really battle correctly. Anybody who's been in the military will tell you this. You can't really battle correctly if you don't have some kind of peace, right? Like, it sounds weird, right? I promise you, like, somebody who gets in an octagon, they can't be nervous. They can't be just overly angry. Right? If you're overly angry and you can't focus, you out. You got to have some kind of peace. Edwin, okay, right? You got to have some kind of peace. And so that's where the hardcore history of slavery was at. Yeah, and even in that, like, they had some of it. Like, I know even on the, I think it might even been some of it on the first level when you walk in, they had it real black and stuff, like blacked out, and you could see things. Yeah, but you got to recognize, you got to see how you doing, Afro. Thanks for being part of the community. You've got to see that the goal is to get you to come out of yourself, right? That's why we're supposed to come out of the world, out of the system, but the goal is to get you to come out of yourself. The goal is to get you to not believe in yourself. The goal is to get you to look at what somebody else, once again, has defined, right? Once again, it was fine. They defined it. You agreed with what they defined. They broke it down. Then they broke it down over and over again. They redefined it. And the confusion is the fact that they redefined it so much. At some point, we have to say, okay, before we even get into their redefinition, and before we even get into the definition, at some point, we got to refine this. We got to say, what was fine in the first place? Yeah, we've talked about that before, right? We know that Sunday is the day of worshiping the sun. Monday is the day of worshiping the moon. Tuesday is the day of worshiping the god of war. Wednesday is the day of worshiping Odin. Thursday is the day of worshiping Thor. Friday is the day of worshiping Frida. Saturday is the worst day of worshiping Saturn. Right. So we're with you on that, right? So you got, pieces necessary to center ourselves. Thank you, Bounty, for the love. We appreciate everybody giving any love, gifts, etc., that you might give. Even some of you give donations and different things to what we're doing, etc. And if you want to learn more about what we're doing, if you're on YouTube, just look in the description box. If you're on TikTok, just click on where it says website on our main TikTok page. That's our link tree. That'll give you a little more information on different things that you can do to roll with us and be with us. Right? How you doing, Year? Is it Year Renee? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. Thanks for being part of the community. Takwa says goal is to see them as normal and anything different as strange and abnormal. Yes, right? And you are a stranger. Like, here's the deal. Once again, you are a stranger in a strange land. You are in the land of your captivity. These things should look strange to you. The problem is that it doesn't look strange to you. These things should ultimately look strange to us. It should look strange to us. It should look strange to us. It should look strange to us that everybody else has their own land except us. It should look strange to us, but it looks normal. Yeah, Marvel comics, DC comics, right? These things should look strange to us. Watch this. It should look strange to you that you love a man in a bat suit. I like the fact you brought that up, Trevon. Let's sit on that. It should look strange to you that we are in love. And look, comic book head, not as much as I used to be, admittedly, but I'm talking about like I had access. My father worked at the Library of Congress. He worked at the University of Maryland. Sometimes during the summer, he was always working. He had 2.5 jobs. So sometimes the only time I spent with him would be when I got to go to work with my dad, right? I got to go to his job and see him. And he would just leave me in the midst of like Federal Reserve worth of, like federal vault of like books and like the state of Maryland and all the books that they had basically for the university. So I used to be able to go over there and I'd be this young person. And I got to read some other things that were cool too. I like to read about history and Africa and all that stuff. But look, I little child, I went to the comic book section and I got to read stuff, like I'm talking about 1930s comics, 1950s, 1960s. I read the first, like everything that everybody wished they can get their hands on, like I was reading it, right? And it didn't seem strange to me until I got older that why am I looking at Anansi or Non Capone? You call him Spider-Man, right? Didn't really think about it at the time because I didn't know myself. But realized, wait a minute, that's me. That's my culture up there. And they're telling you they're calling him Spider-Man. Right? We were sitting up there watching Batman. Didn't realize that what's the Kamazats, right? And you can actually look it up. If you guys have never looked it up, look up just Google image search, all right, on who Batman is, Kamazats. They were telling you, like they were getting this from other cultures and stuff, and they had us. It should be strange that we as children are worshiping the same way that other cultures were worshiping. It should be strange to us that this is in existence. And however, it's not strange. I'm sorry, you said LGBTQ or community was painting murals of rainbows everywhere in Buffalo in honor of victims, BLM blackface. Yeah. By the way, even not just BLM blackface, but even think about that. It should be strange to us that we are actually, and it's something that happened with me. I had to learn this. My wife had to teach me this. I was extremely against at one point my son having anything to do with rainbows because even right as a pastor, as a minister, as somebody, even when I was agnostic, realized this, right? Even as a young boy, whatever, through my whole life, I always knew that the rainbow was a promise. Right. And my wife used to say the same thing that you're saying, Minister Tamara, like we need to take it back. So even when we were doing the church thing still, and even when we weren't doing it, but we're still helping out children and helping out with teaching and things, like she was always like, we got to take back the rainbow. So she had art project stuff. And I was always like, she had to show me that because I was like anti-rainbow. You can't wear a rainbow. Now as a grown man, I had no problem putting on a rainbow. But at first I was like, man, you can't wear a rainbow, this and that. You know why? Because we have it to where we think that we should use it to worship somebody's lifestyle instead of the promise that was on it. Every time I see a rainbow, I shouldn't think LGBTQ plus. No offense, but I'm telling you how you took somebody else's culture. I shouldn't think LGBTQ plus. And by the way, all these people that talk about misappropriation and you use the rainbow, stop talking about misappropriation if you let somebody wear my rainbow. Because that's us. That's the Most High. By the way, it's not mine, right? But I'm saying my culture. Because the Most High, he told me that every time I see a rainbow, it is a reminder that he will not allow me to be taken away by flood. It's a reminder. And if you know how the rainbow works, because it's a circle, you realize that you usually only see half of the circle. But then it tells you in Revelation chapter 4 that the other half that you normally don't see is represented there because the rainbow, you see half of it. And then it says that he has the other half above him, which means when you see the rainbow, it's actually connecting heaven. Remember the word heaven, Shamayim, that's actually used in Barashat, what we call the book of Genesis chapter 1, is actually talking about even your atmosphere. So you breathe in heaven, you exhale heaven, right? And so when I breathe in heaven and I breathe out heaven, right, it's automatically connecting me to the Most High, right? But also too, if I see the rainbow within heaven, then there's a rainbow that's above him in heaven. And so whatever's done on earth is done in heaven. Thy will be done on earth the same way it's done in heaven. But somebody gets to misappropriate their culture and they get to say, oh no, this is LGBTQ plus. The same person that would argue and say that they shouldn't misappropriate culture will use your face and say Black Lives Matter, right? And the same person that says you shouldn't misappropriate culture will use your rainbow and say that the Bible is wrong. Right? And they'll portray our culture as make-believe. That's why they have to tell you it's not real. Oh, it's not real. You can do whatever you want with it. Well, then, what if somebody says that being born outside of sexual nature, outside of natural law, what if they say that's not real? How dare you? It's because that it's a lie. Either it's real for both or it's a lie for both. Don't tell me that what I believe is a lie and what you believe in is truth. So I see that promise, but you tell me that that promise means that you're supposed to be able to be perverted. And perverted doesn't mean, by the way, just nasty. Perverted means to take something that's supposed to be going like this and then all of a sudden like start having it veer off. It looks like it's the same, right? Going towards you right now, it looks like it's the same thing. But if I keep coming straight at you, right? If I keep coming straight at you, it can look like all of a sudden it's going off. I'm just saying, right? But people will tell you don't misappropriate culture. But it was so misappropriated that in my mind, and I know the word, and in my mind, I was like, yeah, I can't have myself and my son and none of that. I can't have anybody wearing a rainbow. That's terrible. I would say to myself, that's terrible. Why would you wear a rainbow? Why wouldn't you? It's a promise. Yeah, my wife said we have to train our children the way they should go. Well, I don't know. There probably is there's sun netchers and there are sun gods. I don't worship gods though. I worship Elohim, and Elohim created the sun. If you're talking about right, so I don't really do sun worship. I'm thankful I worship the one who made the sun. So for me personally, it's not really even a deep thing. But see what I'm saying? Like we're dealing with stuff that was fine, and we need to refine it. We need to even see what happened when they defined it. Thank you, Joel, for being part of the community. Right? We have to say to ourselves, something's off. Like at some point, we got to say to ourselves, something's off. Not like people get mad at me. I tell people this all the time, and let me say it again. I learned one of the greatest thing I learned in spirituality is that I have no heaven or hell to put anybody in. So this is not about you having to go to hell, right? I want everybody to succeed in that regard, but I am not worried about trying to tell you who's going to heaven or hell. So this is not what this discussion is, right? This is not what this discussion is, right? And my wife is saying that for those of you, we've been trying to get it done for a while. If you got grandbabies, if you got babies, if you got whatever their age, well, certain ages, I guess, but we would like to be able to send some stuff out to you guys. We might need you guys to help maybe with, whatever the cost of sending it is. But, we'd like to be able to send a package out because at some point we like to do some activities with just the babies, right? It used to be acceptable to come together, as she's saying, to have these conversations and to make projects and talk about the Most High, right? And then all this stuff we're doing, our babies might get left to the side if we're not careful, right? There used to be, as much as we don't like these terms or whatever, there used to be Sunday schools and things like that. So please, keep that stuff together. Or if people are meeting up for meetings or whatever, I say all the time, bring your sons to invite your sons, invite your babies to come on for some of the men's meeting stuff or whatever. We can try and make sure that stuff is worked in. If you want them to come to the women's stuff possibly, but also too, we need to start something for the children. So just kind of putting that out there again. We've been talking about it for a while, but we can't force children to come, so you got to help us with that. Well, you can always reach out to us. Once again, the information's on the stuff. If you find a number on there, text me at a number, and that's usually the easiest way for me to be able to get back to you. How you doing, Sister Helen? So yeah, and all these things that are going on, right? We talked about Batman. What about Superman? Who is Superman supposed to be? Superman is one of the most diabolical ones out there, and people don't even want to talk about that. Who is Superman supposed to be? And by the way, Superman is written by a Jewish people or people you would say Jews. I know people say you're not supposed to say Jew unless you're a Jew, but if you're a Jewish person is different than a Jew anyway. So I don't even comprehend that. If you get that, like Jewish people are saying that we're not even really Jews, but nevertheless, right? I'm sorry. You said I use the colors of the rainbow for connection, for studying chakras, and to start conversation when people associate you with the community. Okay, right. But once again, if we're dealing with this, and how you doing, Honeypot? Thanks for being part of the community today. Um, so when we talk about these things, if we talk about even Superman, going back to our comic book characters we were just talking about, who is Superman? Who is Superman? Superman is this guy who comes from another planet, and on that planet, what's normal to them are miracles to everybody else. On their planet, they have more gravity. On their planet, they have more things going on with the atmosphere. On their planet, they have a lot of things. On his planet, his father is basically in a position to be in rulership. He's a king, so to speak. He's got authority. And he sends his son to a planet specifically, not just because that planet's about to be destroyed. He sends his son to another planet, and he actually says, I'm sending you to a planet to where they need you to be their guide. We're greater where you come from. We need you to be their guide. I want you to just tune in and stay with this for a second, right? Tune in and stay with this for a second. I'm sending you to a place where they need your help. These human beings, right? They're not everything they're cracked up to be. I'm sending you from this planet that's blowing up, right? And I'm going to send you over there. And when I send you over there, you're going to learn and grow. Now, you're not going to know who you really are. I want you to peep game, right? You're not going to know who you really are. I'm going to send you, though, to a mother and a father, and they're going to raise you. And then you'll learn one day who you really are. And then you'll begin to be the savior of their world, right? And even some of the only things that will mess you up, for example, is like, I don't know, something like kryptonite. Kryptonite is something that is green, and when it comes around you, it will mess you up. So you don't want to be around this kryptonite and something that messes you up. Also, being in the sun will be something that will be your strength. Being in what? In the sun will be something that will be your strength. Yeah, Minister Sonia, you with me, right? Being in the sun will be something that will be your strength. Also, too, you'll be faster than. Now, remember, the original Superman didn't use to fly. He didn't use to fly. He used to jump. That's why he leaps all buildings in single bound. And it used to be he was so great at jumping, it looked like he was flying. Now we just say that Superman flies. Now that's become the thing. But it used to be that he jumped higher than everybody else too. So here we go, where we have all these things coming together, right? Now we know who we're talking about. He's supposed to be an Israelite. And here's the deal. Superman was written by two Jewish comic book writers. Okay, Sister Tracy, thank you. Not to mention his name is Kal-El, right? Kal-El, Elohim, Alacham, right? And by the way, even now I know some people will say, well, it's Kal, not Kef, but Kal-El. Even Kaf means what? To be in his hands. And Al, right? Aleph, even starting off that character is what? To be the father, come from the father, to come from a source. His father sent him. And one day he goes into this place. I forget what it is. Forgive me. I'm not as in tune with the comic books. I used to be the Fortress of Solitude, whatever it's called. And one day he has the ability to actually talk to his father. Right? He goes into a private place. He goes into like a Garden of Gethsemane, and he realizes that he's supposed to be the sacrifice for his people. They're telling you your story, but they're telling you through somebody else's eyes. And because they wanted to make sure that Americans were down for this, they even made sure that he was red and blue in his uniform. But wait a minute, What color was his skin? Oh, he's red, white, and blue. Right? They said he's red, white, and blue. Thanks for being part of the community. I can't say your name, but thanks for being part of the community. Right? They gave you everything that they needed to. This was an education. We thought this was something random. They were educating you. They were telling you that this is what you need to be in. They had your little boys and your little girls too reading this stuff. Gave you everything they needed to. He was red, white, and blue, right? And so now, God bless America. Well, he's a god because these superheroes become your gods. These superheroes are nothing more than your modern Zeus's, Nike. So like Nike, that was a god, that was a deity. And what did Nike do? Nike was a messenger. Nike was fast. Who is the Flash? They're telling you who they're talking about, but we don't study. We don't study. So now we have this thing going on where we're not studying the battle. You're in a bad place to where these people will put this in the minds and hearts of your children, and they will tell you and I that we're wrong to speak on who the Messiah really is. They'll use your story. Thank you for the love, right? They'll use your story. They'll use your story. And they get paid off of it. And then you say, okay, we're going to have land to ourselves. They say, how dare you try to get land to yourself? Well, everything about it, they're still using you. People don't like to hear about this because people don't want to hear this, but Jewish people used to own slaves, and they made more money off the slave trade in certain parts of the world than anybody else did. And Jewish people were Southern slave owners too. And a lot of people don't want to recognize that Jewish people kept great records. And if you want to find out what happened to Israelites, go and look up their records because they told you that they enslaved Israelites and they told you what we looked like. Still benefiting. They were trading you to be able to get wine sometimes. That's how little they thought of you. Well, but then all of a sudden now they said that they're you. We don't want to have that conversation. I'm not saying every Ashkenazi and every Khazarian person believes this, right? But they might be benefiting from it. And see, this is when we had that issue. You can't have a comic book, right, without benefiting from us. Sorry, my wife said these superheroes. These superheroes are religious with Thor, Odin. Yeah, with Thor and Odin, they don't. Yeah, you're exactly right. They don't even try to hide it. And shalom to everybody. Welcome, Jess. We're right. Those women who are Wonder Woman fans, the little girls who are Wonder Woman fans, right? Which, by the way, like the woman who plays Wonder Woman is a Zionist. Yeah, so who's the real replacements? Exactly, right? That's why when we talked about that replacing thing, when we went through that on through Patreon, right? It showed a lot of different things, right? But hear what I'm about to tell you. Hear what I'm about to tell you. You ready? I want you to receive this. I want you to see this first so you can receive it. You Wonder Woman fans, where did that come from? That came from your people. We've never had. See, it's interesting. They say Wonder Woman, she's this great, example to what will happen, and women who can be there in combat and and all that stuff or whatever. We've never had a problem in Africa or in the Americas, right? Or in Asia, or even Black people that were in Europe. We've never really had a problem with women stepping up and being in control of things and being queens. And I'm not gonna say never, that's strong, but we're not as chauvinists or male chauvinists, because chauvinist just means patriotic, but we're not as misogynist as what everybody tries to make us out to be. But Wonder Woman, where does she come from? She's their hero because Greeks and Romans, people that are romantic, United States citizens, they think that women are down here, that they're just trophies. Right? Plato, when you have platonic relationships, the reason is because Plato was a grown man that messed with little boys. And he taught that the best relationship you could have would be a 40-something-year-old man messing with a preteen little boy. And he said the worst relationship you could have is a husband and wife relationship. Right? It's a platonic relationship. That's not our culture. Right? For us, an Amazonian type mindset is not a big deal. I mean, heck, when they killed, our one of our leaders, in Libya. When they killed him, Gaddafi had women that were protecting him. That was his secret service. We had no problem with that. We had no problem, with having Ethiopian all women warriors. We had no problem, um, even though it wasn't done that much. But Shaka had no problem with women being able to learn how to fight, even though most of them needed. He felt like we should protect them, but we had no problem with that. And when they came over to Ethiopia, and Italy came over to Ethiopia with what's the dude from World War II? For whatever reason, his name escapes me. I see his face, but his name escapes me for some reason. The one that was fighting with Hitler and fighting with Japan with the Axis powers. But Mussolini, when Mussolini sent people over, right? When he sent, when Mussolini sent, his warriors over to Ethiopia and to a couple other places too, but especially to Ethiopia, it was the Ethiopians beat the brakes off them, and then when they sent them to other places too, it was all women armies that beat them up real bad. And when they had these all women armies that beat them up real bad, then they went back, tails between their legs, and went back to their masters and said and lied about who beat them up. Because they told the truth, it was all women that beat them up, but they said, "Oh yeah, it was women," but it was women, and they were like tall, they were huge, they were buff, they were this, they were that. And then you have Wonder Woman come out later on. Now, here's the deal about Wonder Woman. Once again, you got to get out of this romanticized stuff, right? Wonder Woman is somebody who came from a guy who was married, and him and his wife, who had children, also had this woman that lived with them, and they were into bondage. So him and his wife were like the dominators. It was male dom, fem dom, and then they had this woman who liked to be dominated. So this woman that liked to be dominated, she was the slave. So look at what happens with Wonder Woman. They take what they know to happen in the story of in the story of mankind. They make it his story, right? So you had these strong black women who fought and beat up the people who tried to make themselves their oppressors, right? If we want to use the term strong black woman, okay, in this sense, strong black woman, right, who beat up these people, and they take their divine nature and they say, okay, we're going to make them our slaves, but then we're going to treat them as sex slaves. It's a fetish thing. What happens with Wonder Woman? We know this to be fact. I'm not making this up. Look it up for yourself. We know this to be a fact. This is not right. So I'm giving you context with the facts. This is not something I'm making up. All right. About this family, about this man. We know this to be a fact. Okay. So this man takes your people, takes a whole bunch of goddess stuff as well, whitewashes it, and then says, we're going to enslave this woman. What do? She has, you call them now these, wrist protectors or whatever. These are shackles. These are things that can easily be connected together and tied up. Wonder Woman has a rope that if she uses it on you, you have to tell the truth, right? But when you use it on her, what happens? Not only does she have to tell the truth, but she has no power. She becomes weak. So when she's outside the rope, she's powerful. But when you tie her up, what happens? She is weak. It's a fetish. Look at Wonder Woman's clothes and the fact that she wears these boots. This is fetish. All coming together out of the head of this one person who's trying to get you to what? He's taken what was fine with us, he defined it, and now you've had enough comics that have redefined it, and now you've had movies with the Zionist being in the place of Wonder Woman, who now has redefined it so much. And if we would just simply refine it, we would say maybe we shouldn't have our children looking at Wonder Woman like that. Maybe there's some things, just possibly, quite possibly, it could be something that we could say, yeah, she also, great point, she also is what? Red, white, and blue. She got a little gold on her. But here's the whole thing about gold. What is gold? Gold, when you see gold on a red, white, and blue American flag, now we're dealing with maritime stuff. And where does Wonder Woman come from? She comes from somewhere way out there, as far as where her laws and things like that, they are different. And then also she has to learn how to become a whole new type of person under new maritime law. Like it's the same. I'm just trying to tell you, like some people will say this is conspiracy theory, right? And I would say it's theoretical, except for the fact that we know a lot of what I just said is factual. I'm giving you context with it now. Now you study it, do what you will with it, But what I'm saying is all these things that we have. I mentioned earlier that Flash is what? That's Nike. That's the God who's supposed to be the person who's a messenger. Y'all saw him in Hercules or whatever, right? With the glasses on and all that stuff. And right, like that's supposed to be a messenger. Usually got the wings on his back, stuff like that. That's what you're dealing with. You know, a lot of this stuff that's on there. What about and this isn't necessarily comic book characters, but what about the fact that everybody likes Valentine's Day and you put Cupids up in there? What does that Cupid do? What does that Cupid represent? Cupid didn't always have the form of a baby either. But Cupid was somebody that actually used to, sometimes rape women. And Cupid was somebody that can control people's love and all that stuff or whatever. But Cupid has a diabolical background. And you can't wait to go by Saint Valentine, which, by the way, Saint Valentine is a creation of a whole bunch of different men put together to make up who Saint Valentine is. So he's not even a real person. And you have all these different things. So you see Cupid, you think Cupid is cute. Once again, think about it. The battle of the mind has made it to where you will normalize, even if, let's go outside of what I said about him in his grown up form. We think that it is normalized and cute to be able to see a baby that shoots you with an arrow that's buck naked. What's cute about that? That's pedophilia. I mean, I guess if you want to say that I ignore sorry, and I said I don't talk about him that often, but I mean, sure, if that's where it is, I'm not here to. I can't please everybody, you know. So if we want to do that or whatever. I think we talked about Alsar a little bit, and then you got upset with me because I was talking about Alsar. I said I was talking about all the different ones, and you were saying how I was denying them or pushing them down. But nevertheless, welcome. How you doing? Hello. But these are things that we're dealing with, right? Like we're dealing with people that are taking what you're doing all day long, right? And they're taking what you're dealing with, right? Like if you want to talk about nut, and therefore talk about I guess offset coming from nut and all those things or whatever as well, right? I'm talking about specific things that a white culture is trying to present something as. So if you want me to say that they originally got it before the Greeks took it and the Romans took it or this and that or whatever, of course we can say everything goes back to a specific thing. What I'm trying to tell you is that though these things should not be something that we're there, and I'm not here to argue. Hopefully we can make the main thing, because at the end of the day, my whole thing is to say, like, we have been duped into believing that this stuff is normalized, right? It should not be normal to worship a bat god. Or if it is normal, then it should not be normal to say that anybody who worshiped this bat god had to be some kind of cannibal, and they aren't even the same people. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, my wife said always pushing their agenda on us, used to control this on the slide. Yeah. Once again, we were talking about that earlier, guerrilla warfare tactics. We're talking about battle, guerrilla warfare tactics, right? All these different things that are going on. Ishtar, right? Which is something that actually exists. If you want to get semi-technical, it's something that existed even, little before Kush and Kemet were actually societies as well. So you could say that Ishtar is something that pre-existed that, but it's something that we could talk about in Kemet as well, because it's a mother, father, God principle that's used with everybody now. But even Ishtar, where you get Easter from, that's where you get your bunny from, because she's supposed to be the I guess I couldn't call her a netcher, but you could say somewhat the same culture, but she's supposed to be this deity or spirit or God or whatever of fertility. And you have to realize that she came in an egg. That's what she said. She said she came from an egg in the moon. She was actually a real person. And people believed her, and people were looking for, and even sun worship started. So before it started in Kush, right? Or the reason it even was established in Kush was because you had Cushitic people that were with her. Remember, she was actually married to the man named Cush. So she was married to Cush. And then you had out of her and him, so they broke up when Cush basically lost his power. She left him alone, and Nimrod started gaining power. She got with her own son, and Nimrod's the one that basically, when people worship at the sun, that's really where the sun worship started from, because she told everybody when Nimrod got killed, she told everybody Nimrod basically went up to the sun. Now, once Nimrod goes up to the sun, she said that she was still promiscuous. She gets pregnant by somebody else. And she says that the sun's rays, Nimrod, impregnated her. She's the moon goddess. And therefore, out of the sun and the moon came that. And people knew that there was supposed to be this, this father, right? Aleph, who was going to be in tune with what? With this woman, wombed man, which we later will realize is Yashrel. And then out of them is supposed to come this son. A child that was born, a son who was given. The government be put upon his shoulders, and his name, his authority shall be Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Abba, the Everlasting Elohim, and the Prince of Peace, or of Shalom. Right? But we've normalized worshiping her and calling it Easter Sunday. It should not be normal. It should not be normal, right? To worship a goddess who comes from the egg and the moon, right? Who wants you to worship the sun on Sunday, Easter Sunday, Ishtar Sunday, and then out of that's supposed to be a child who you call Christ. That should not be normal, but it is. See the battle of the mind? Once again, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're manifesting themselves in carnality. It starts in the spirit. It starts with a normalized mindset, with a normalized spirituality, with a normalizing something that spiritually is perverted. Right? And so that's why we call out the Pope. When people say, why you talk about the Roman Catholic Church, because the Pope got got all the stuff right there in his stuff. He's walking around with paintings of Cupid and everything, right? In his area, right? And Cupid did some perverted things. I can't sit up there and have somebody who is worshiping these deities as he's walking past. It can't be surprising to me that he has these things there. And we believe these things to be acceptable. We believe these things to be okay. If you're trying to talk about Amun Ra and all that stuff or whatever, like Amun and Aman, which is not even Amin, Amin is how you have it spelled, I think. But Amen or Amun and all that, sure. Yeah, like there's something that was there, but we forget that like these words existed too at the same time that somebody was saying Amun. And by the way, Amun is somebody that was a normal person first too, and then they became deified, if we want to use that term, or they became a netzer, which is more correct. So, but Aman is different, and it's even characterized. It means something completely different too, which is something that's interesting that we don't actually, we just go up. We're going to go to this one thing, and we're going to say that's it. And that's why I try to give multiple different ways of looking at it culturally, because we're dealing with cultures. We have to be careful, because sometimes we do that. We say like every single word that exists had to come from somebody else. But if you believe that language was scattered, then that means that, languages can be very similar, but just because they're similar, have similar sounds, like it doesn't mean that people can't mean different things when they say different things. They don't give you a break from their agenda, always thinking it through. No accidents. Exactly. That's another thing too. We believe, we have this weird belief system that says that this stuff is accidental. That's part of the issue too, is that we believe that a lot of this stuff is accidental. We believe in things being random. We believe in some of this stuff even being mistakes. So we believe in some of this stuff being a mistake, right? Like we actually believe people are out here making mistakes with this. And we're treating things that should not be, that are not mistakes, and that were done with a purpose, on purpose. We're trying to treat it as mistakes, and we're treating it as, oh, it just happened magically. No, like somebody believes this. Like you're dealing with somebody's belief system. There's a reason why we know that there's chemistry, but they call it chemistry. You're dealing with a belief system. Somebody believed that it was better for you to be able to learn something false, and for you to not learn an actual word, an actual value society. You can't talk about chemistry without talking about chemet. You have to have chemistry. You have to have chemet before you have chemistry. You have to have chemistry before you have chemistry. Chemi is dealing with your melanin. Chemi is dealing with your pineal gland. Chemet is a group of people who studied the blackness of who you were. Blackness was a positive thing, but if you have a mindset that says it is no longer a positive thing, then blackness is bad in everything, including in your Bible. Because now people have to say, well, you're talking too much about color. How dare you talk about color? Right? How dare you talk about anything that has to do with color or whatever? Color is not even real. I don't even see color, which is foolishness. Because now you got people that have to get into energy instead of the spirit. Well, everything has an energy and a frequency. Even color has a frequency, because you have to disprove that color exists. Thank you, Bounty. You have to disprove that color exists. This is why Paul said, pray without ceasing. We have to be in obedience. Amen. Movies cost millions. They're not for nothing. See, even in that, my wife just said something powerful there. Thank you. Thank you, babe. Thank you, Honorable Amma. Like, she just said something that's really powerful in that, right? Like, there are millions of dollars sown into movies. You think that those are just, you think that those are just random? You think that's just only for your entertainment? Do you even know, like, when you go to see a movie and you are amazed, right? Do you even not recognize that a maze is something that's supposed to have direction? And if you put op before it, you're saying the opposite of it in their language. Therefore, they're telling you that they're trying to get you to be the opposite of having direction, or the opposite of finding the path. A maze is supposed to be something that helps you to get to the path. It's already confusing enough. Now we say, our maze, we have you there. We're trying to get you to do what? To take away time. Or if you go to a muse, what is a muse? The word muse means to think. The muse, that famous sculpture that people like to talk about, and he's sitting on the bench, and he's got his hand like this. I forget what his hand like. I think it's like this, right? Either like this or like this. He's pondering things. Amusement. You're going to a movie for amusement, the opposite of thinking. Right? When you go see a movie, this is one, and I used to study movies. I knew this, right? Even when I was a big movie fan, I was going all the time. I used to go to at least bare minimum one movie every week. Sometimes even if I went by myself. I loved movies, right? I love going there. I like seeing behind the scenes. And my father, actually, before he became what he became in his life, he actually was somebody going to school to study behind the scenes stuff on movies. So we had behind the scenes on everything. Even back in the day of VHS, we knew everything about everything, every way that they made every little parts of movies. We loved that stuff, right? And I still watch some of the VFX stuff and things like that today. Like, I really like that, because now I do it more so because I want to study how they amuse you and how they get you to be. But if you go to an amusement park, right, what they're trying to do is get you to not think. And they know when you go to see a movie, there's about 33 seconds. So they show you all these different things or whatever, and they show you all this stuff, and you talk about it, right? You talk and everything. You're like, oh, that movie coming out, it seems like it's going to be good, blah, blah, because you know that that's not real. In your mind, you're like, it's not real because I'm not seeing it. But they know that when it comes time for the movie to start, that after about 33 and a half seconds, you will do what's called suspend disbelief. You will have a suspension of disbelief, right? You will have a suspension of disbelief. And so they know that you will have a suspension of disbelief. So they know that after about 33 and a half seconds, your mind will shut off and say, okay, the only way I can watch this movie is I have to agree. I have to make an agreement. I have to make a spiritual, mental battle. I have to have cognitive dissonance. I have to turn off cognitive dissonance in order to make this movie work, right? Because I know that they're about to show me some stuff that doesn't make sense. I know they're about to do some stuff with physics that doesn't make sense. I know they're about to do some stuff that I spiritually don't agree with. I know they're about to do some stuff that psychologically doesn't make sense, but I'm going to have to agree with it in order to watch this movie. So you will shut off your disbelief of things that are not real in order to entertain it. You'll watch it for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, whatever. And then, right, and that's one of the reasons why they have to be really good movie makers, because your body will start rejecting. You think that you're just getting tired or you're cold, and that's why you're like, man, this movie's 3.5 hours. No, if a movie's written well to help you to continue to suspend disbelief, you'll stay in it. But when the movie's not done that well, and it doesn't follow the rules even of its own movie writing, right, like of its own schematic, so to speak, right? When the scheme doesn't even make sense within its own system, then you start getting like, oh, when is this movie gonna be over? Because you can't suspend disbelief any longer. And they're doing the same thing with the system. And a lot of us are getting to a place where we've been watching this movie called life, And we are saying to ourselves, wait a minute, I can't keep suspending my disbelief. Like, I'm getting to a place to where when is this going to be over? Right? When am I going to stop being part of this wicked system? When are they going to stop? When am I going to stop voting for these people? When am I going to stop watching people marching and stuff? When am I going to stop not having my own food? When am I going to stop not having my own land? You said not any more years ago, Enemy of the State was one that opened your eyes. So definitely not. The movies are them showing themselves, trying to reprogram the truth of facts. I mean, that's part of it, sure. But in order for you to go with that reprogram, you have to what? Suspend disbelief. And said I always said certain movies were perpetrating and revealing the ugly. We've seen Blinded too. Trying to make us dizzy. Said every time you fall asleep on a movie, you call it garbage. I mean, hey. Said Roe versus Wade just turned over by South Carolina. I mean, not surprising. Yeah. Oh, yep. My wife says next thing's going to happen is they're trapping people in the metaverse. You know, by the way, they're working on trying to get you to upload memories and stuff onto the metaverse. Once that's there, it's there, you know, they own your beliefs. They even own your memory. They're going to have people on there that people are going to talk to you 100 years from now. They're going to be talking to you, you know, talking to memories and things that they tried to download, you know, things that you talked about, things of that nature. Like, oh, amen. Thank you, Infinite. Yeah, we have to recognize like this stuff. There's a program that's been done. Once again, it was fine. It got defined, broken down. They redefined it, broke it down so much that you don't know what it is, but you agreed to the redefinition. And what we need to do is refine. That's salvaging. That's what the word salvation actually means. Yeah, when we have been participating in our own demise. So you had a dream that they're trying to trap people's consciousness in the metaverse. I mean, they've said they're going to do as much. It's not even something, you know, that dream is validated. Like they've said that they are working on being able to download people's stuff to where you can talk to them. There's some of that goes on now that people don't recognize. Like some of these, you know, like I want you to comprehend. See, it's become so normalized, right? But you got to recognize when you're watching some of these cartoons that you're watching, in essence, it already started. You're watching people who have been passed away for a long time, and you're seeing parts of their personality that still come up. Or when you're watching movies and stuff. Matter of fact, those of us, you know, I watch Star Wars and stuff still and things of that nature. And when you're watching Tarkenton or you're watching Princess Leia, right, come back or be used in the movie, even though she's dead, or Tarkenton, was dead for years before they brought him back, and they used him in the movie or whatever, and they own his likeness. You got to comprehend. Dave Chappelle said some of that. You know, if you watch some of his specials and stuff, where when he signed the contract, when you sign these contracts, they tell you things like you sign these contracts, you know, throughout the universe in perpetuity. Right? They're signing you up for eternal usage. Like people don't know. I think the copyright law used to be like something could only be copywritten for like 7 years. Then Walt Disney came along, and what the Disney company did is they started taking all these things that have been written throughout history, right? So like the Jungle Book, which is about written by Rudyard Kipling, Manifest Destiny stuff. They wrote something about that in Dumbo, you know, the Jim Crow stuff. They wrote that, and by the way, you had the little mouse. What was his name? Timothy was. I don't remember the mouse's name, but you know, you had the little mouse and stuff. Right, they even look at the relationship and stuff like that. But nevertheless, you had you had Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby. You had all these different things that were getting Beauty and the Beast, that actually was called Tale as Old as Time. That's why that song is in there. That was sung by Angela Lansbury. That song she sung that was the original name of the book. Yeah, Pinocchio, some really wild stuff in that. The actual real story of Pinocchio, if you don't know it, go look at it. Or Heracles, that you know is Hercules. All these different things. Disney was copying off all these things, and what they did is they started getting success. They didn't want anybody else to have the same successes that they did, so they changed the copyright laws. They actually went and changed the law. They actually fought for it and changed the law. So it used to be like 7 years, but then they made it like 100 years. So technically, like some of the Mickey Mouse stuff and all that stuff shouldn't even be used anymore just by them or whatever, which if you notice, there's people that have been using it now. and I've actually been able to successfully use it somewhat. But Disney still has, now they're going and changing the law again. But they're doing this stuff. They're using a personality. They're using stuff like Jim Crow and Dumbo. They're using stuff like Mickey Mouse, black person, white gloves on. They're using people like Minnie Mouse, black person, white gloves on. They're using people like Donald Duck, white duck, dressed like Hitler. Like they're using Goofy. Goof, black person, who's a dog. White gloves on. Like they're using people like Bugs Bunny, right? And especially look at the original version of Bugs Bunny, black person, not with a carrot, with a cigar in his mouth, white gloves on. Look at the original Elmer Fudd, right? Black person, white gloves on. When he gets shot by his own weapon or gets blown up, black face, watermelon mouth, all that stuff. Like you're seeing this stuff. Yosemite Sam, who's not necessarily black person, right? Supposed to be as Confederate as it gets, but when he gets blown up and stuff, what? Watermelon mouth, all this, and they're using these personalities and they're keeping them going. This has been something that's already been happening. So the metaverse is just going to be, it's going to be more real time, right? The more we've accepted it, the more as a society these things have been accepted. Now they just keep bringing back the same things. Right? Like they're just bringing up the same thing they've been doing. It's not this is not new, right? Yeah, trapping your consciousness, they control your lifespan, and boom, right? Like, by the way, get the most you can out of somebody, get them while they're young. Once they get to be a certain age, they're not that interesting anymore. So guess what happens? Like, we don't care about your health anymore, but we care about keeping all these things. So we sign you up younger and younger and younger, and you're seeing all these people dying younger and younger and younger. Right? They try to make me go to rehab. I say no, no, no. I forget the white guy that just passed away, the right rapper, but there's been quite a few rappers that have been dying. What's the age they've been dying at? 21, something like that. All of them been dying 21 or 23 or some number that, like, a whole bunch of them dying at the same time. It's okay to lift up being on lean and all this stuff to where you're so high, you're not sober minded. We're supposed to be sober and vigilant, for our enemy is like a roaring lion seeking whom they may devour. You said it's 27, okay. But these are these things that are going on. The Garden of Eden promise that we already have. Yeah, like metaverse now promising eternal life. Exactly. There's a great point about my wife again. Thank you, babe. Like this is real stuff that's happening all the time. And they keep saying it's conspiracy theory, but we keep looking at it happening. And it's the same thing. And it's things we were warned about, right? The beast is not a new thing. Now, like you got to recognize. See, I don't even think people get it. The point of the whole point of the beast, which is the government, is to get you in a position to where everything that you ever want, it has to come through them. It's to control you. Said never like SimCity. I'll be honest, I was into Sims for like a tiny bit, right? But you know why I was into Sims? At the age I was younger. I was in the Sims because, hey, like, you could become something else. And a lot of times we've been taught not to be ourselves. You said you actually believe the ones dying in celebrity or sacrifice. Some of them probably are, and that wouldn't be a new thing either. But like, it's a lot of this stuff is us trying to escape reality, and that's where it's going to be. All these different things. For example, a lot of for example, a lot of the apartment buildings that get built nowadays, they are going to be apartments. The apartments are higher up. They're going to be more people that can live in them. They're going to be more expensive, a lot less space than what your average apartment used to have. And then on the bottom, they're going to make sure that everything you need is there on the bottom to eat, to shop, to wear, all these things, right? So basically, they're setting it up to where you shouldn't even leave. Everything should be taken care of. It's making its way into the virtual. Right. Yeah. All over the country. Same thing. It's making its way into the virtual now, where they want you to virtually have a mindset. So even when you physically leave the virtual, they want you to still be in place. But guess what? Like, virtually, you're going to be able to shop. Don't you do that already? So you can go through the metaverse. You can have a conversation with somebody. You can do all these things. You can order your food. You can act like you're ordering your food at the restaurant and fake eat it or whatever. Matter of fact, you can order your food at the restaurant. They'll go ahead and give it to you or whatever. And you can be sitting there talking to somebody. And then all of a sudden, when they say order up on the metaverse, what happens? Somebody's going to knock on your door in the real world. and you'll say, "Oh, excuse me for a second," and you'll go off the metaverse or whatever, and you'll walk over to the door, you'll get your stuff or whatever. You'll be afraid to even talk to the person. You won't even really open the door. They'll probably have something you can slide it through at this point, right? Because we don't want to be around people. But you'll go ahead, you'll get your food or whatever, you bring it back in, and then you say, "Oh, okay, I'm back. My food is here. Is your food here?" "No, my food's not here." But you know what? You go ahead. You can eat without you. You say, "Oh no, I'll wait for you." You'll have this whole thing set up where you're spending time with people. And my wife said it's like the Matrix. I would take it to the point of even going a little further than that, because the Matrix, at least they had to fool you into believing that you weren't connected. You're going to actually participate willingly. You're going to participate willingly because you're already halfway there, right? A lot of us aren't making our own food anymore, anyways, right? We're already halfway there. We're not making our own food. Yeah, or when we go to social events and we're on the phone the whole time. Like, it used to be a real big rule for me. Like, if I go out somewhere and we're eating, like if I need to use my phone or if I need to look up something or whatever, sure. If I have to have a meeting or something, hopefully it's not always at the expense of my family. But if it's something that I have to have, okay, fine. Like, I might need to get up from the table, not do it in front of everybody, but I might need to get up, do something, whatever, real quick and sit back down. Right. I'm not always as successful as I want to be in that, but I try. Right. Like but it used to be like rude. Like, nowadays, you have people that are sitting there eating. It used to be that you would eat together as a family at the table. Right? It used to be you would sit down at the table together and you would eat food. It used to be that you would go out into your own yard and you would grab something to eat and you would sit down and eat it as a family. It used to be all those things. Now, like, children, look, when I was in school, a lot of us as children had to be reminded. I remember it was a wild thing for us to go on a field trip, and we went to a farm, and we actually saw on the farm, right? We actually saw cows produce milk, and it blew my young mind because I was like, wait a minute. These cows that I be seeing and stuff, I mean, I know they make fun of it and everything, but wait a minute, cows actually produce milk? And wait a minute, then come to find out that's not even the milk that I drink. Like, they have to do something to the milk before I can drink it. Like, that was something that was wild to me. Then come to find out later on, wait a minute, I'm not even, like, I'm one of the only beings on the planet, right? There's a human being. I'm one of the only beings that actually drink milk after I'm weaned from my mother, and I'm one of the only beings on the earth that actually drink milk from another animal. I'm not supposed to drink milk from another animal. Wait a minute, it's weird to eat cheese because cheese is just milk that basically has been like, it's not even like, it's basically milk that's like rotten, right? But once again, what's happened? It became normalized. That's part of the battle. Remember, we've talked about before genocide. And before you can have genocide, you have to first admit that genocide is a war crime. If we're going to talk about genocide as a war crime, you got to admit that you're at war. And today, if we admit that we're at war, we got to talk about the battle. How you doing, Willie? Thanks for being on. Appreciate it. Right? I'm saying, like this is stuff where they messed with our minds so much that what should be fine has been defined so much and then redefined so much that we don't even know how to refine it anymore. Our children are surprised when animals produce milk. Our children think that apples come. If you were to say, "Hey, go out and give me some apples," they're going to look to go to a store before they're going to look to find an apple tree. Yeah, we got to learn how to socialize and continue that, right? We gotta learn those things. We got to be in position for those things. You said the stinkier the more it costs, paying extra for extra spoiled milk. Yeah, animal flesh is for animals. Yeah, for those of you that choose to be vegan, ain't nothing wrong with it. And I know originally we weren't designed to eat meat anyway, so I get it. And even with that, those of you who are going to be vegan, make sure that you comprehend how to get as much protein as you're supposed to get. For those who are trying to make sure that you're vegetarian or pescatarian or whatever, make sure that you comprehend what it is. Some of y'all ain't getting iron. Make sure that you still grow your own food because you got to make sure that the crops are rotated. They don't rotate crops anymore, so you don't get minerals out of them. When's the last time that you've made sure that your food that you're eating, they actually put minerals into the ground. I mean, if you're talking about collaborating, we've been talking about collaborating for a minute, so we definitely fine with it. But we got to get back, exactly, get back to our roots. That's what we're talking about. It was fine before it was defined, and before it was redefined. We have to refine it now. When we talk about coming out as pure gold, that's refining something. Pure gold is I find the gold, I find it in the ground, and even finding it in its natural situation. If I want to make sure that it's fine, I have to go through a purification process. And so now the battle is to purify. All the stuff we've been talking about today, if you can't hold on to anything else, please hold on to this. The battle that's going to take place is to purify. It's time to purify our hearts. That's our passions. It's time to purify our minds. It's time to purify ourselves, right? It's time to start putting just as much into your mind as it is that you put into your nails or into your hair or into your haircut or into your job or into your suit and your tie. The time has come now for us to purify, right? You have been taken away from what is pure. And even people were coming on talking about Kemet and stuff like that. Fine. Are you living by your 42 confessions? If that's what your belief is, time to purify. You know how the confessions work. Maybe you don't, right? I do something similar to the 42 confessions, even if I don't say all 42 confessions. I do something similar, which is I start off my day by saying, this is my belief system and this is what I'll be held accountable to. I go through my whole day, and then at the end of my day, at some point, I try to say, this is my belief system. This is what I hold accountable to. I say those things again. And then I try to look at my day in between saying both of them and saying, did I keep those things up? Like the Bible says, let a man examine himself. If you're a Muslim, what is your jihad for the day? Jihad is not a negative term, although there are people that have made it negative. What is your jihad for the day? Say it at the beginning of the day. Go through the day, say it at the end of the day, and then see, did you do what you were supposed to do? If you are a Christian, fine. What is it that you're supposed to do for Christ? Say it at the beginning of the day, say it at the end of the day, right? Look, evaluate what you did through the middle of the day and see. Make purification part of your day. Should the community be doing what? Doing the ma'at? No, I'm not saying we should. What I'm saying is people will say all these different things that we're supposed to do, and we're not even doing it. Right? You know, what I'm saying is that people will say, oh, well, I'm about ma'at. Ma'at is righteousness. Okay, make sure you say you're in righteousness then. Like that's not what I agreed to, but at the same time, fine. If you're on this thing where you don't understand that it's all about this and blah blah, where you're right, like I would say to you, if you're into Ma'at, why not make sure that you recognize what Ma'at was when it was in Kush, because that's where Kemet got it from, and why not recognize what it was before it was Kush, because Kush got it from somewhere too. Look at it when it was fine is the goal of what I'm trying to say, right? Look at it as when it was fine before it got redefined. See, some of us don't even want to admit that, like, even with the Ankh, people are like, I stay away from the Ankh. The Ankh is about a Kemetic net. The Ankh existed before Kush and Kemet even existed. If you want to get technical, the Ankh existed before the flood. That'll mess with some of our minds. If you believe in the flood, then you believe in the Ankh. The Ankh came before the flood. And those who want to be Israelite all the way, don't forget that your Israelite brethren were buried with ankhs around their necks sometimes. Somebody took the ankh and said, just like somebody took, made themselves a netcher or whatever, or other people made them netchers, whatever. Like somebody took that and made it something outside the principle. The ankh is just saying that masculine and feminine energy, or masculine and feminine spirituality, or men and women just need to be together. That's all the ankh is really saying. Yeah, that's fine. I'm where I need to be, but I'm not worried about meeting. I appreciate that you recognize some of the stuff that I say, but I'm okay with where I am, right? But like at the end of the day, you got to recognize, right? Like and that's why I say study it, and all this stuff. People go, man, you talking about this, but you only talking about from the biblical perspective. No, like once again, I need people to comprehend. Like I was not born and raised Christian. I'm not a Christian now. I'm agnostic. and I know where my people come from. I talk to my people. I ask them these things. I've been and talked to them. I've talked to them in person over here, right? I've gone to certain things to say, hey, tell me about what we do, etc. Right? And we're doing a lot of stuff that we don't know. We're even reading, or sometimes even some of our greatest orators, which I love a lot of them, don't necessarily know what we're talking about, right? We have to recognize like what was this in its origin. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. Principalities are origins, or even kingdom origins, or how monarchy looked at origins. Monarchy is where it starts, but a lot of people don't even want to be under kings and queens, or don't want to be kings and queens themselves. But you can't be a king or queen yourself if you're not under a king or a queen. Impossible. You said, how is balance defined? It depends on what the culture is and what you're talking about. In my culture, we wouldn't want to be balanced, believe it or not, because I don't want to be just as good as I want to be bad. Now, the whole balance thing, if you're talking about from a kinetic principle and you're talking about your heart being as light as a feather and all that stuff, then that's more so saying you still should be unbalanced. You should have so much greatness that you do that you're actually light. Right. So it's still not even being balanced. It's saying that you are so unbalanced. You are so on the side of righteousness that you actually shouldn't have any balance to, or you should be as balanced or light as a feather. So if you want to talk about like, and see, it's difficult to even say Afrocentric because most people only talk about Kemet when they talk about being Afrocentric. We don't even talk about Ethiopia, Eritrea, Swaziland, South Africa, Angolans. We're not even talking about, we just talk about one particular group of people and forget that those group of people it's not just only what they did, like people who helped build pyramids and stuff, they're all over Africa. And they didn't just scatter, they came from all over the place. It was a place where it was a melting pot of thought processes and construction and mathematics, etc. So it's kind of difficult when we talk about it. But when you talk about balance, a lot of people talk about balance. I am very unbalanced. Now, because I'm unbalanced, it doesn't mean that I'm unhinged. Right? So because I'm unbalanced, it doesn't mean that I'm unhinged. See, those are two different thought processes that come to today. But I'm not trying to be balanced. See, balance is, all right, today I'm going to treat my wife with respect. Tomorrow, I might disrespect her and everything. Today, I'm going to treat her with respect again. Tomorrow, I'm going to disrespect her. I'm not really trying to be balanced. Right? I'm not really trying to be balanced. I'm not concerned about it. And I know the Roe versus Wade stuff keeps coming up or whatever. I'm probably not going to talk about it this rising. I don't know how much it affects anything anyways. And you still got to figure out how states are going to go ahead and deal with what they're talking about anyways, but you have to recognize, in being balanced or whatever, I'm not really trying to be balanced. So we're not perfect. Sure. I'm still not trying to be balanced. Right. And even the stuff you guys are talking about with pyramids and all that stuff or whatever, that's fine. Like the most pyramids that ever existed, they were in what we now not what's called Mississippi, but where the original people of Mississippi used to exist. That was where the most pyramids were built anyways. So pyramids is something that's bigger than that too, right? But what I'm saying is, like, I'm not trying to be balanced. I'm trying to be very unbalanced. And people don't like it. But then again, see, people don't want to admit you live in a place that's unbalanced. Right? Maybe I'll play it as we get ready to take our leave or whatever, right? But even when we're dealing with being unbalanced, there's like a song that we had, and basically talks about like there's a lyric in there that I have. It's like we were raised to go to school, get good grades, keep it cool. Like I can't remember the lyric. No, not know about love, but still make love. We we love the money, but want to. I can't remember all the lyrics, but basically, like, we're very unbalanced people, and we have to basically get back, When people say being balanced, I know what people mean, but you should be very unbalanced. You know, you should be very unbalanced. Um, Balance is something that is like the people who you like to talk about who are rich and who are motivators and do all this stuff or whatever. The people who you're talking about who are all these different things, you've got to recognize and comprehend and realize that all these people, they are unbalanced. Somebody who gets up every day and says, I'm going to make sure, like, this is a battle to stay unbalanced, right? You got to be unbalanced to win a battle. Somebody who every day gets up and says, I'm going to make money no matter what. That's a very unbalanced individual. Somebody that says, I'm going to study the stock market every day. I'm going to read, like Warren Buffett reads for 2.5, 3 hours to start his day every day, and doesn't just read what's happening in the market that day. He goes back and reads stuff from the 1960s and the 1950s and stuff sometimes to be able to see if there's anything repeating itself. That's being unbalanced. There are people who get up every day and say, I'm going to work out 3-4 times a day every day. That's being unbalanced. There's people who say, I'm going to pray every day. That's being unbalanced, right? Like there's not a time, there's not a day I will not pray. There's not a some people go, there's not a second I'm trying to go through without being in prayer communion. That is being unbalanced. That's a battle. People talking about being balanced. Why you want to be balanced? Why do you want to have one day that you're doing something and one day that you're not? I get what people mean when they say balance. So I use the terminology loosely, be balanced in it, blah, blah. But reality is that you want to be unbalanced. If you're trying to medicate yourself and eat things that are healthy, right? You're trying to get your eyesight back. For example, you're trying to do better with your eyesight. You want to eat carrots. Don't eat carrots for one day and then talk about you go heal yourself. You got to eat carrots every day. Right? And you got to do it 2-3 times a day. And you got to make sure you do it for months and then see if you see a result. What will happen is you'll start to realize that you don't need them glasses like you used to, or you might not need to. You got to be unbalanced for it to work. If they give you a medication, you say you got an infection, and they give you some kind of medication for the infection, you got to take the medication until not just until you feel better. You got to take the medication for a certain amount of time. It's got to be unbalanced. You can't miss, right? But a lot of us were trying to be balanced. Once again, somebody took something that we knew that was fine. They defined it. They said, well, if you do it, but you do it this much or whatever. And then they redefined it. Maybe you should do it some and you shouldn't do it some. I'm like, no. It was fine the way it was. I'm a very unbalanced individual, but to be unbalanced does not mean that I'm unhinged, right? To be unbalanced does not mean that I am unhinged. All right, Rhonda, you stay safe as well. So a lot of people think that if I say I'm unbalanced, it means that I'm unhinged. I'm all over the place. No. I am unbalanced. I'm trying to focus on righteousness all day, every day. That's the battle that's in my mind. That's what I've decided to take on. I'm unbalanced. It is unbalanced, right? All right. Hello to you, Flo. It's very unbalanced for me, right? How you doing? Thanks for being part of the community. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. Hagigam AQTOU. I apologize. Thank you for being part of the community. It's very unbalanced. It is very unbalanced for me, right? To say that I'm going to be on live as much as I am, right? That's my calling, though. That's my lane. I'm unbalanced in my lane. I'm focused in my lane. I'm on my grind in my lane. Thanks for being part of the community, Griffin. I'm unbalanced, but I'm not unhinged. Right. And the people that are against you, we're talking about the battle today. The people that you're battling against, they're unbalanced. They don't take days off. You think that when you go out and you run the red light today, right? And they got a camera at that red light, you think that all of a sudden, well, today's the day you're gonna run the red light, and the camera's just not gonna work. They're not unbalanced, and that they don't take days off. They still coming for you. You still gonna show up, or at least so you think you're supposed to, especially because you don't know what sovereignty is, and you know how to make sure it happens. But you still gonna show up to court, aren't you? It's unbalanced, right? They don't take days off, right? Your enemy doesn't take days off. Your enemy doesn't say, you know what, I've done enough today. Just go ahead and let them have today. No, like your enemy is like, we're gonna keep this up. It's like this. I don't know how many of you. I'm really into animals, right? I don't get to talk about them as much as I'd really like to, but I'm very much so into animals, right? Um, One of the animals that's an animal that many people know about is an anaconda. One of the animals that a lot of us know about is an anaconda. An anaconda doesn't win a battle against you because um, the anaconda is not going to win the battle against you because the anaconda is balanced. The anaconda is unbalanced. No, I'm not a sovereign citizen because sovereign citizens aren't real. Sovereign and citizen don't show up in law together. You can either be sovereign or you can be a citizen. All right, but as far as the anaconda, an anaconda is not balanced. What do I mean by that? When an anaconda attacks you, one of the worst things you can do against an anaconda, believe it or not, one of the worst things you can do is especially if you're by yourself, but even if you're not, one of the worst things you can do against an anaconda is to try to breathe. Right? One of the worst things you can do, right, against an anaconda is to try to breathe. Somebody say, "What in the world you talking about? Try to breathe." The reason is because the anaconda has, we don't think about the snake being as strong as what it is, but a snake basically is almost all muscle, right? You might think, "Damn, that's a fat snake, an anaconda." I've seen this anaconda up close 30 feet in length, right? The matter of fact, it was the same one that played in the movie Anaconda. I saw that one, right, up close, and its head huge, like huge, huge animal. And but people go, "Oh, what do you mean not breathe?" Well, the anaconda is full of muscle. What it does is it bites you, and it bites you very, very hard to get a grip on you, and then it wraps itself and coils itself around you, right? So as it's coiling itself around you, one of the things that you want to try and do is, if you can, in some way, shape, or form, have it to where you can have some kind of way to breathe. Because what's going to happen is this, right? You're going to have to try and stab it in its head or stab it in its body enough somehow, some way. So maybe you want to even have one arm outside or something. But if you don't have a weapon, something like that, you're going to be in trouble. And one of the worst things you can do is breathe. Here's the reason why. The reason why is because the anaconda starts squeezing, but through the whole process, it never stops squeezing. So you think like it might take a break and then, but no, it's extremely strong. It's just going to squeeze until it realizes that you're gone, that you're not breathing anymore. So every time that you breathe in, like you breathe in, you're going to try and hold it, and it's just going to keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. Every time you exhale, it's going to keep squeezing until it just comes in more. Then you try to breathe in real quick because you're like, oh man, I can't breathe. And then all it does is just keeps the pressure, or then you breathe out again, and it comes in tighter, and you go, but you get less breath every time. Now you can't even go. You're right. You're getting closer and closer, right? It keeps squeezing. It keeps squeezing. It never stops squeezing, right? Every time it come for you because you're pretty much too big. There are some that are big enough to try it, but pretty much you're too big for any snake to eat, right? Let me put that at rest for anybody that might be having some weird thoughts. I don't believe that you'll be eaten by a snake, right? But I'm just trying to tell you that's how it would work. One of the worst things you could do if you came into one that big is to keep breathing. You would actually try your best to hold best. You would try your best to hold your breath and hope that those that are around you or hope somebody that's close enough to you might be able to come and attack the snake enough to be able to hurt it enough to get it to, hurt enough of its muscles to get it to release you. Right. What I'm saying that for and all that is because that's what you're dealing with your enemy. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Somebody took away our signal on TikTok. What's going on here? Interesting. I'm sorry. I always find it interesting when we lose a signal on TikTok. Everything was fine. Oh, weird. Okay. I might have to try and figure that out. That's weird. We lost everything on TikTok. Oh wow. Okay. Well, we might just be gone.
Yeah.
For the library, it has the code and stuff.
You,
To be used, I can't. It's not letting me sign in on the phone. I need to. Looks like one bar just came back. Sorry, guys. Had something weird that just happened with the phone service. It's kind of coming back on, but I don't trust it. Try and get everybody back on. We were getting ready to take our leave anyway, so but it's very odd. Thanks, babe. I'm sorry. I thought it was only written on that thing. So, it's an interesting turn of events here. Trying to see if we can get everybody back. We might not. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I don't even remember where we were. Basically, I think we were talking about the anaconda squeezing, but we're getting ready to take our leave. But basically, I was trying to say that the enemy, the same way, that the enemy basically goes in the same way the anaconda goes and squeezes or whatever, the same way the enemy is squeezing. Yeah, thank you, Sister Deborah. Yeah, there's something weird that happened where all of a sudden we just got shut out all of a sudden. So, but it's not really surprising to me that. But long story short, you're dealing with the squeezing of stuff, and one of the worst things you can do is breathe, right? And that's one of the worst things that the enemy. One of the things the enemy knows is that if I can make it to where it's difficult for you to breathe, right? As far as right, I can make it as difficult as I can for you to breathe. Right? That's what happens with our lives. Think about it. Right? It's hard to breathe. Hard to be a single mother out here and breathe. It's hard to be a black person out here and breathe. It's hard to be somebody who follows the word of Yah and breathe. It's hard. It's hard to breathe. And what happens every time you breathe? Right? At first, it was easy, right? But then it hurts a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And then there's nothing left. A lot of people are dealing with asphyxiation. You're getting choked out. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that's in Matthew 13. We talked about it last night for those who were in discipleship class, where there's one of the places that the seed is thrown. And when things in life happen, we are so happy to hear it, but then all of a sudden, here comes life. Here just comes the normalcy in life, and it chokes the life out of what's trying to grow. It's like a weed, right? And I'm not trying to give all weeds a bad name because we know that some weeds are great for us, but we got to recognize, right, that these are things that are going on. And I'm gonna be honest with you, even with, and I'll talk about it tonight. I got to look it up to see exactly if I'm, what I'm thinking I'm led to say is to make sure that I can vocalize it correctly. But real talk, like even with the Roe versus Wade stuff, can we be honest with it? The Roe versus Wade stuff has some stuff in there that was racist anyways. But then again, like this is going to choke the life out of some people. They're going to be caught up on this, and a lot of people are going to be listening to everybody and their mama that they talk about Roe versus Wade. Some people are going to have a day off, right? You're going to have a field day where you're just going to go from TikTok video to YouTube video to Twitter video to whatever it is, to Clapper, etc., looking at Roe versus Wade. And it's like it's something just to try and get you not to breathe. Trying to get you not to breathe. Like these are what these things are trying to do. They're trying to get you to do. They're trying to be involved in things that'll get you not to breathe. And here comes that snake. Here comes that vice. Here comes the system. Here comes this demonic stuff out here It's going to have you continue to do what? Not to breathe, right? It's going to squeeze every time you breathe out. You think you can exhale. And that's why you got to get out of the system. Right now, the system, this world that you're in, it's a vice. That's what that would be called, by the way. When you have a device, like you guys know, a vice is something that just squeezes you. When you have a device, and so we need to make sure that we get out of something that is vicisive. You know how they keep trying to say something is divisive? No, we want to be in a device. We want to be in a system that doesn't squeeze. Right? People are going to say all the time, now you're going to have all these people, how dare you talk about abortion, Roe versus Wade, they took it away. They took away from it, blah, blah. First of all, like your state still has to say what they're going to do with it, number one, right? Number two, because that's just like Roe versus Wade said abortion was supposed to be legal, but there's certain states that abortion wasn't legal then, correct? So they're going to have you stuck on all this stuff so much because they're trying to keep the pressure on, right? They're trying to squeeze. For what? Like, had they not changed Roe versus Wade today, would it have affected you in any way, shape, or form? Now that they've changed it, does it affect you in any way, shape, or form? We might not want to hear that. Thank you, Sister Deborah. We might not want to hear that, but that's reality. Had Joe Biden been your president, did Joe Biden being your president, has it affected your everyday life?
Those gas prices are horrendous.
Yeah. Are they Joe Biden's? Does Joe Biden control the gas?
No.
You know, like I get it. Gas prices went up when Trump was in office. They went up when Obama was in office. Yeah. I mean, and they came back down. You know, they haven't come back down that much yet, but they actually have started to at least try to come back down. But it doesn't matter. Like, because here's the deal. Had Donald Trump been president again, the gas prices still would have went up. And that's the thing. It's like, once again, it's designed to squeeze you so much. But because we're in somebody else's system, remember what we talked about, it's become normalized for us to be squeezed. It's normal. Once again, it should not be normal that we have little children, and I was one of them, little children that grew up worshiping a bat or a man dressed like a bat, right? It should not be normal for me to be like, man, you know what? I got mad respect for Michael Keaton because he dressed like a bat. But that's normal conversation, right? It should not be normal for us to be like, man, you know what? I got mad respect for what's his face? Who was the one that went out with Jennifer Lopez? That played Batman. Ben Affleck. Man, Ben Affleck, those movies were bad, but he was a great Batman or whatever. Like, Ben Affleck seems to be a terrible person. Or maybe not, I don't know. Maybe the people that are around him, I don't know. But it seems like it's designed to be a squeeze. Yeah, you know, abort. Even think about that, right? Like, to abort. Abortion is, once again, TION. It makes it a person, a place, a thing, right? So what are the people you're becoming? What are the things that are happening to you? What are the places we're arriving in that due to the fact that we abort life? Like, think about it. Pro-choice or pro-life. And then we have this argument. Like, see, it's gaslighting. Ultimate gaslighting. And I know we're over time. So if people got to roll out, I know we're over time before our extended time, right? But hear this. I need somebody to hear this, right? Holy Spirit, she's saying, like, we got to sit on this for a minute. I need you to hear this. What kind of gaslighting is it to say that if you really thought that a newborn was life, then you wouldn't be racist? Like, what is, how do the two even equate? I'm not saying that there's not even an argument at all. What I'm trying to say, though, is that you're not even using the correct type of argument. And thanks for being part of the community, Shaz. Appreciate it. You say, I want to kiss another woman, and I am a woman because I don't want to. If you don't mind saying that a little different, or at least typing it up a little more for me, because I don't really comprehend exactly what you're trying to say, you know. But and my phone also too, after it gets to be this long a time, is my phone kind of messes up some. But I legit just don't know exactly what you're trying to say on that. But you know, we have this interesting stuff that's happening. You know, like what is, like, okay, so if somebody is racist, Like, think about this. Like, the arguments people use. If somebody, and I'm not a Republican or Democrat, could care less about that stuff, right? Just trying to get you to see. If somebody is racist, what does that have to do with whether or not a life is a life?
Mm.
If we're talking about racism, aren't we really saying that this type of life is worse life than somebody else's? So it doesn't even make sense for the argument. But we have people literally arguing now. Like, hey, you can't talk about, because you say that you're pro-life, but then you think that it's okay to take George Floyd's life. Well, even in that, as bad as that sounds, that's when we have to get into, once again, contextual facts, right? I'm not a facts over feelings guy, but I want us to use feelings correctly and also use facts correctly. If somebody says that George Floyd's life, it was okay to take George Floyd's life, they still believe that George Floyd had a life. Now, is it still disgusting that they think it's okay to take his life? Sure. But don't try to equate George Floyd's life being taken means that they can't tell you it's not okay to take another child's life. Because if you believe it was wrong to take George Floyd's life, then you believe it was wrong to take somebody else's life. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying my best to scroll through. I think my wife was even trying to explain the context of the thing earlier, but I can't. My phone right now is, after I've been on this for a certain while, it starts messing up. And we had the situation with the whole signal thing too. So, right. But I'm just trying to tell you, like, they have us arguing. Once again, they're squeezing you. Willie Lynch said this. He said, every time you come into a knowledge of self, they're going to give you something that confuses you about that knowledge. And here we are doing the same thing. Right. And all the stuff that's going to happen and all this conversation is going to happen and Roe versus Wade and all that. I'm just telling you, I'm just asking you, pray about it. Think about it. Long story short, I want you to think about this. I want you to pray about it. Long story short, and all the stuff that's going to come up with Roe versus Wade, how much of it is going to affect your life? Oh, wow. Yeah, so this might be a bad, yeah, it might just be bad signal in this area right now. I don't know. But yeah, long story short, yeah, I know. Yeah, YouTube's cracking up now. We got bad signal even on other stuff. I don't know. I'm not gonna make it about me per se, but it's very interesting the way this is rolling. It doesn't really make sense. But long story short, I think we've covered this stuff today. I thank you all. I appreciate you all. I honor the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. We ask that you study Yahweh's word, study this message that was given, meditate on it, get it for yourself. And if after studying it makes sense what we're saying, TikTok is far gone conclusion now, but if it makes sense what we've been saying, feel free to go ahead and make sure that you use it and execute in it correctly. We thank you all. We appreciate the king, queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Amma. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. And we thank the Honorable Amma for everything that she does in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, etc. Those of you who have class, we're excited that she's going to be teaching class and what she'll be talking about today. We thank you all once again. Have a great day. Early Shabbat Shalom to those that we might not be able to say it to later on. And until I have a chance to be before you all again, please remember, as always, Yashtel, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Take care. Peace.